Hello and welcome to episode 180 of the Imperial Truth podcast. My name's Greg and joining me as ever is Mr. Howard. Hello, Howard.
Hello, Greg. How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, not bad. You?
Excellent. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Looking
Gonna
forward
try.
to this spring-like weather we hopefully will be getting.
Yeah. We'll get into that in a minute. Yeah, I'm trying to keep the energy levels going. Absolutely shattered, but I'm going to do my best. We will see how it goes over the course of the
I'll
evening.
compensate being irritatingly over the top
Super.
and
Yeah,
energetic.
that is definitely the way to do it. Okay, right, before we go anywhere, let's talk Element Games for all your wargaming goodness, for really good service, and usually 20% off in the pre-order week. And
I managed to put an emergency order in with them the other day, and I ordered it just before midday. It was dispatched by 4 p.m. and it was with me the following day. Still continues to impress me how quickly they can turn things around. It was quite an obscure collection of paints and glues and loads of different things, as the glue I was using was dreadful, and with so many plastic kits coming up, I wanted to get sorted on that. So yeah, they were very, very helpful.
indeed, yes. So you've been doing any hobby, good sir?
I have a lot actually. I've got a little bit obsessed with heresy again. Legions has taken a bit of a back burner. I was building some Spartans, but I put them to one side because I got a bit obsessed with getting some trial lists together for a possible doubles event later in the year. Your good suggestion. So I've been putting together some lists, and that, to cut a long story short, has led me to really double down on the Solar Auxilia that I was building, as is topical right now for everyone who's giving them a go. So I've been trying to nail a paint scheme. Gave a good go with one I came up with myself with grey and tan, dark grey and tan, trying to give a sort of earthy look. And then I've given a go to the Deathless, as there was an excellent guide to that on the Cult of Paint, with Henry covering a whole load of different cohorts. Thought I was going to go all in on them, gave them a go, actually wasn't enamored enough with them over the one I'd done myself. It made me reevaluate the one I'd done myself and actually think, yeah, I'm pretty happy with those. So yeah, that's been my big push. So I've done 25 auxiliary infantry. I've just built the Dracosan. Do you say Dracosan or Dracosan?
Dracosan.
Right, Dracosan and Lehman Russ. Dracosan, I'll run with that. And a Lehman Russ. Yeah. So yeah.
We've got more pronunciation news later. So that's
absolutely, yeah. Good point. Yeah, good point. So yeah, it actually have been quite a bit of hobby. I've been getting in a bit here and there before and after work, late nights and early mornings. What about yourself?
Yeah, no. No. I had I don't know how many bases turn up for Warhammer, for the old world, for my Slaves to Darkness to go on. Questioning my decision again because the knights are thick boys, and for anyone who played old Warhammer, the Chaos Knights never used to rank up well, and the bases were not quite wide enough, and the Slaves to Darkness on the 30 mil bases are they're reminiscent. I can maybe play around with positioning of the models on the bases. But I need to kind of do all that. Basically, I've just got too many projects. Age of Sigmar 4th coming out in the summer, which kind of knew it was, which means basically I've got no interest in playing Age of Sigmar till then, which is quite good, really. But I've only got I've got my Cities of Sigmar. That worry about them later. I've got some giants ready to go, but there's too many games that I knew or I have to build and paint stuff for and learn rules for as well at the moment. It's like just feels like every game's new at the moment, or aspects of it are new. So it's a bit of a kind of this wave of too much stuff that means nothing ever gets done. So I've semi-cleared my desk, and I think what I need to do is just focus on one project.
That does feel so much better having a clear desk.
Yeah,
With my rush to get and give a go to the Deathless cohort for solar, I really needed to use the airbrush to follow the scheme suggested by Henry and Co. So that forced me to clear out my desk and organise that and have a real sort out, as it did going and finding various bits of armies that I had for these trial lists and things I was
sure.
trying out. And that makes you feel so much better, actually getting all of that organised, having a clear desk, I found anyway. But I completely agree. Having something to focus in on one project certainly makes me feel quite good. I don't think that's necessarily true for everyone, but it does for me.
I think the problem is like all the projects, all the games I play, I haven't got like a full painted army at the moment. It's terrible, really. So
It's
it means
frustrating,
that
actually. Yeah.
I feel bad no matter what game I'm playing at the club. So I need to organise my time better at home, which is a constant thing. I need to. One thing about being a parent is the trying to get stuff done whilst your kid is awake.
Yeah.
And to balance how you do that, and I'm not very good at leaving him alone
Agreed.
and getting stuff done.
That's a conversation we've been having as well. Yeah.
Yeah, which means trying to get that stuff done. So by the time I then sit down, I think I've got an hour, but I've been rushing around all night. I just want to like fire up the computer and play an hour of, Baldur's Gate 3, or I want to watch something. Oh, do I want to start painting now? So yeah, it's just getting a little bit organised with that, and the desk is not clear, but it's much clearer. So hopefully that will help.
And having an event or something like that, or some marker, even if it was just a game in the calendar or an actual event, I think helps. And you've got some coming up, haven't you?
Yeah, borrowing an army for one, which is
That's
in
fine.
2 weeks' time, which I need to. Blimey, it's been a while since I played, and it's Zone Mortalis as well, so it's all a bit different. So I want to say, which I need to decide on what army to use, or I'm borrowing one. So it's whether I've got the models I want, what I can afford to buy, all that kind of stuff. What to use. So I need to make some time to plan for that as well, without all this extra stuff coming in. It's worth problems to have, but it just is where I am at the moment. A bit disorganised as usual.
But it sounds like
also
at least you're trying to get on top of
it. Yeah, I think there's also like that desire to have that other project. Like that if I want to just do something, to be honest, my other project should be just building the stuff that I've got unbuilt. And what I do need to do is a big magnetising session on bases. So that needs to be a day where I just commandeer the table when the boy's not here and sit there with a hot glue gun and go for it. But hey, we shall see how that goes.
So getting organised, I think, is the answer to the hobby. Then.
Well, it's the answer to my life, to be honest. If I was organised, I'd probably be quite, half successful. But it's as I say, holding me back.
That's easier said than done, though, isn't it?
Oh, big time for me. Anyway, awesome. Before we go too far, we did have some good feedback on our End of the Death chat.
Oh, excellent.
Which was generally kind of not a huge amount of it, to be fair, but a few people basically said, I think I enjoyed it more than you, and specifically at me. And I'm like, trying to work out like the best way of describing it. I didn't want it to come across that way. I like Marvel Endgame. Yeah, I think I enjoy that film no end. I would still go back into it and make changes. I think we said we tried to say something we were being ultra critical of it because that's what we were doing. We were looking at it. I stand by what I said. There were, your mileage may vary on some of it as well. For starters, that's absolutely fair. That there are opinions about how much you enjoy certain things and what they bring to you. That is also completely fair. Let me try and find the feedback itself, which I won't be able to find now, which I should have had all lined up. But hey ho. I did ask Michael to have a listen through. Michael from Track of Words, and I think he said he broadly agreed with everything we talked about.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Would you not?
No, I'm surprised. It's interesting because I'm pleased to hear that he agreed with it. I obviously value his opinion very highly, but I hadn't caught up with him on that specifically. He and I have just been chatting magnets, but recently. But I hadn't chatted with him on that specifically.
I messaged him and said, "Have you listened to it?" And he went, "Not yet." And I was like, "All right, cool. No worries. I was just thinking about this." And he was like, and then I got a message like an hour and a bit later saying, "Oh yeah, listen to it." Generally,
yeah, that's cool. That's my. I tend to ask Mike about a book or something like that. We might say about a book, and it would be a similar thing where he'd say, "No, I haven't read that yet." An hour and a half later, yeah, I've read that book now. Like what?
Hate it. Hate it.
He can devour those things. It's incredible.
Cool. So Lee Herridge on the much underused group on Facebook. He's like the Dark King kind of answers what might have happened if Magnus basically if the Emperor wasn't trapped on the throne. Like there is he is the Dark King is the potential of what the Emperor could be and why the Chaos Powers are scared of him. That kind of thing. My issue with that is, once again, we haven't seen anything in 40k that there's no connection. So that could be the case, but it's still irrelevant because 40 has nothing that ties back into it. And that might change. I'm not sure it's going to be honest. So, but I get it. I understand the comment there.
It isn't. The whole concept is an interesting concept for them to have introduced something of that magnitude. I think we touched on that at the time, didn't we? And then to introduce it there, and then arguably about 40k, that might answer the question as, could that come back? Maybe not. Maybe that's done now, given what he excised from himself. Maybe that's it. That was the opportunity that's passed, and it is no more. But even that makes that sort of diminishes it somehow. That's a shame.
He also talks about the fact that it raises the stakes that the Dark King might have been the thing that was needed to beat Horus, and I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, that's fine. At the end of the day, I don't think it was all needed. I don't think that the Dark King was a requirement for that. I think it was handled, or could have been / was handled the right way. And there was some Sheldon B. Turner and Lee talking about some Christian references within that, but it's just kind of background, kind of the Christian faith, Horus heresy links, are kind of they've always been kind of there, even just from Horus being the angel that fell, that kind of thing. It's much easier for a Western white group of males to draw, probably for them to draw on Christian mythology than it is mythology, Christian beliefs and scripture and things like that is them to go to a different religion and different culture and draw on those, which might come with complications. But yeah, it's kind of there. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. It's that was one of the main things. Anyway, but it was cool. It was cool to get some feedback.
Nice to have that. Feedback. That is cool.
Awesome sauce. Yeah, I think I don't know if there's much else to talk about before we jump into what's been going on in the Heresy, which, although there's been a lot, it's actually kind of quiet because the Thursday reveals, I think we might as well talk about them when we get to them in the big book.
Mm.
So that's the 3 characters. And what else do we have? Big super heavies, should I say, for Legionnes Imperialis?
Yes. That I think we knew were coming because the sort of seen images that looked like they were likely in the Shadow Sword was such a
But they
staple.
also just have to come, yeah. So
Yeah, but it was cool to see the variants of that.
yeah, and I think I think this is where the game's going to step up a gear is when you get the big super heavy tank units of all kinds stepping in. I think the game will step up a lot on that one. We do have a new Primarch out, the Joy Toy Horus
Oh yes,
in
that is a
his
hell of a model.
full
It's
Terminator.
enormous as well.
Yeah, it is big. I've got the Russ one. Oh, sorry, the Ragnar one, not Russ.
I didn't know they'd done
Haven't done
it.
Russ yet.
Hmm.
So I've got Ragnar, which is awesome. It wasn't cheap, but I think this guy's going to be a fair amount. But it's kind of
I mean,
cool. I kind of like him.
seeing him next to Abaddon there, I mean, it's just yeah.
And if you order him from the Warhammer merch store before release, you get a free limited edition T-shirt. There we go.
Mm.
But I think these are the kind of things, as I've said before, like I will get Russ when he comes out if he looks half decent.
Mm.
How many more than that I'll get, I don't know. But I think they're kind of cool in an old man playing with toys kind of way. Shocker.
Somehow I feel like, I mean, particularly these two, I'm just looking at Abaddon and Horus, as display pieces, because they're so ornate, which compared to some of the 40k
Yeah,
era ones where they are less so, I think it's quite a cool thing to have on there. It could be
yeah.
quite a cool display piece.
So they're now doing all the heresy stuff, aren't they? The base units, and I'm like, there's an easy line for me to draw there. Like, do I want tactical marine A? Not especially. Do I want named character who has a bit more about him? Yeah, okay. I'm listening.
Mm.
I think there's a big difference between the two. For me, I could see younger me being quite interested in collecting quite a few of them
Mm.
if I had the money when I was younger. But certainly older me, I say, give me Russ, give me one or two others, and we'll have a little talk. But until then, I'm cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they are quite. They're quite impressive just to see what can be done with that kind of model, not
Indeed.
model making, toy making technology. How toy somehow seems to sort of diminish it, but
Mhm.
it is pretty cool. I've seen people doing some pretty impressive work to sort of enhance the paint jobs on them, and
Oh yeah,
I think these two in particular are very, very strong in terms of the paint job. But people are taking them even further than that.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to Adepticon. We didn't get much
Mm.
heresy news,
No,
but we
but they
do
did
have.
tell us that we weren't getting a lot. We did. They told us we were getting only a teaser, which I thought was quite good.
My favourite is one comment. Well, you told us you were giving us a teaser, but then you gave us something which didn't actually show anything. What was the point in that? It's like, well, that's exactly what a teaser is.
Yes, exactly.
Now, whether it's worth putting a teaser up there as opposed to nothing, shit, they're not going to win. They're going to get grief either way. Um, I think it's kind of cool. Like, is this just the Imperial or the Mechanicum Knights that have been rumoured? Or does it mean something more?
Mm. I quite like a teaser. I think they're a good thing. I think they help build that excitement, which is cool. And I think it also is a good marker of what scale of thing we're going to get. They tend to only do teasers. This isn't a rule by any stretch, but you tend to only get teasers for something that's a bit more significant as a release. Whereas if it's just a character or a couple of kits or something for a book coming out, then that doesn't tend to warrant a teaser. So it does. I think they're quite fun.
Yeah, whether it's volume or whether it's something bigger,
Significant,
as in scale, size-wise. Yeah, you're right. I also think it just lets you know that you're getting something. Like, so, bless Lord of the Rings, right? There's something going on with Lord of the Rings at the moment, right? Obviously, because they've still got a crew. They're talking about stuff coming. They've had very few releases this year. Blood Bowl gets the odd one. The Blood Bowl crowd are an interesting one. But certainly Lord of the Rings. And all you see is they've forgotten about us. They've forgotten about us. Go back a few years when we weren't getting any heresy content, and all you got was, oh, they're letting it die, blah 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 blah. Which I didn't agree with, but I can see where they're coming from. Well, this lets you know that the heresy is still being worked on. There's still something coming. So I think it has an overall positive effect on the community, even if you get frustrated with them. It's like, well, I mean, I saw a comment today on Discord about how people are still waiting for. We got the last 2 items on the roadmap that have yet to be done, which is the command squad and the assault weapon pack, I think. And someone was like, "Well, we haven't got enough time to release it in spring." It's like, well, summer doesn't start till June 21st, so yes, they have. By the by, I think they were thinking of first quarter rather than, months, seasons, which is probably a better way for GW to announce it actually, because it's less ambiguous. Because, are you going by the meteorological definition of spring and what have you? For me, I would only be worried about those 2 things if I think they probably should be out by the time we would have had Fest, end of May. You would hope that they would all come out in that year and would have a new roadmap. But missing one date, someone's panicking that it went straight into defensive mode of they're screwing us over again, and it's like, well, A, they're not, but B, they're doing stuff. They're not going to dump it anymore. And teasers like this just let you know that they're working on things.
And assuming this is an indicator of Mechanicum, that is quite a big statement, I think, because you're putting resources behind what is a faction of the heresy setting, and that's quite a big deal.
It's a big
it is an assumption. It is
for
a
it
big
to
assumption.
be a full.
Like you say, you've said
release.
You've said it could be the Knights. Agreed. Could be that.
Yeah.
It could also be a faction release similar to that we've seen with Solar. That's kind of at one end of the extreme.
I mean,
taking that as a sort of a model, if you like.
Well, you would think at some point it's going to come in Imperialis, and therefore you can do what you've done with the Solar, work on both. I don't think there's an unreasonable expectation. The timescales for that is a completely different thing. So it's just about hoping for that and not expecting it, because once you expect it, if it doesn't happen,
and just exploring possibilities, doing a thought exercise on what a possibility is. I could see a scenario, a feasible scenario where, as I say, that it's a similar thing where you have a couple of infantry boxes, a couple of vehicles, and you cover quite a lot actually with that. A Phalanx kit, a Castellax kit, a Triaris kit, and I forget the name of the sort of artillery tank, not the one based on the battle tank equivalent of the Mechanicum. Krios, that's it.
What have you?
And maybe a Magos, and you've suddenly got most of the range, and then keep the rest in resin for now.
Yeah.
Does suggest though, if it is that, which I think there's a good argument to be said that it could be something like that, then that's a cool place to be, and says that Heresy's doing pretty damn well.
Yeah, I had a friend who he was like, but would plastic save you that much money on Mechanicum? And I was like, heck yeah. And then it was like, go and look at the prices, and I don't even know what they were. And he went, oh yeah, I didn't realise that they jumped like that much. Phalax, I mean, even if I think Phalax are like 44 quid for 3 or something like that, 46, could be wrong. It's around there, I think. If they were in plastic and sold at 30, 30 odd quid for 3, well, you can get them for 20% off at a third party retailer, and you're probably getting options within that kit, like a few, which again just makes a difference. And then I said, just, I don't even know how much the Thanatar is at the moment. Oh, it's 100 notes. Like, that's not going to be 100 notes in plastic. It just really isn't.
No.
And the Krios and all the other bits, like, quickly, you are actually realizing how much you would save by having it in plastic.
Well, and particularly for some of the vehicles, like large vehicles and things. I was putting together the Dracosan, and the idea of making one of those in resin. I mean, it took me a weekend to build an old Proteus Land Raider in resin a couple of years ago. And I mean, I've built a lot of resin things, but still, that was a slog to do that. Whereas a plastic one you could put together in an evening, and it's enjoyable, and
Also,
it's not lots of warped things. It's not to say it's impossible. It's just it is objectively, I think, a more enjoyable experience.
yeah, I do think the other thing with the options thing is if you look at stuff like a Myrmidons, they had a Myrmidons weapon pack designed for resin at whatever Warhammer Fest I was at the Rico Arena, and they couldn't make it work. The numbers work on the cost. Is basically one of the major reasons why they didn't put them out. If you do 3 Myrmidon Secutors, or just Myrmidons, and then have the weapons options for all of those on an extra sprue, you can have almost all the weapons options, and therefore you're not having to buy 3 different dudes, all with 1 different weapon each. Like it's crazy, really. But yeah. Anyway, probably knights, hopefully more. I think it's just the way to look at it, personally.
I think you're right, because I think to have a full range of the scale of the Solar Auxilia being released in the time frame that you tend to see when a teaser is released seems very hopeful, and perhaps as an outlier. Whereas I think probably more reasonable to see a knight coming out in that kind of time frame. Maybe a Mechanicum range is something we see because they try and move away from resin in the future, and hopefully this continued interest and success of Heresy will support that. Who knows? But fingers crossed.
Indeedly doodly. And then, I mean, there's not much more, really. Golden Demon. Did you?
For which there was a Heresy category, wasn't there?
There was, and it's a Perturabo again winning. I was meaning to ask Neil, actually, Neil Hollis, why Perturabo or versions of continue to place very well, and people, doing them as well. I wonder what it is about Perturabo.
He was a particularly, I mean, that was it's a cool model.
Yeah.
The way that's been done, I thought it was a real striking one. I thought the standard. Oh, I mean, that particular piece looks like a piece of artwork. You have to almost do a double take to check that it's not a piece of 2D graphic work; it's something else. Yeah, I mean, all the entries of Adepticon I thought were outstanding.
So, Culture of Paint have done an episode looking at Golden Demon. I think they'll be doing a follow-up with Neil Hollis soon, around the controversy around that. What was I looking at here?
I wasn't aware of a controversy.
Use of AI for developing artwork for backgrounds. And what that means, and should it be allowed, that kind of thing, which I think is a far more nuanced topic than a lot of people allow it to be. I think GW probably should be making a ruling about backdrops and things like that anyway. But I mean, Neil's model, like, I saw a picture of it before it went over, and the blend of the background into the models, into the base and everything is phenomenal. Such a and the paint job on the models phenomenal.
I saw an image of this circulating
Mm.
of Neil's entry, the Exodite, and genuinely, I circulated it in one of the chat groups I was part of, saying, "Oh, it appears a new Eldar Exodite model has leaked." It
You're
was
not
that
the
good.
only one.
And then I was like, and then I looked into the double take because I was at work at the time, and then I looked at it again. And that dinosaur looks a hell of a lot like the new Seraphon thing. And friend of the show, Dan, sent me back an image of that, and he's like, I was like, yeah, okay, that's clearly that is a kit bash, but my goodness, what a kit bash that is!
Yeah, and the winning model is phenomenal. There's some really cool models. Tarot, I'm going to try. Well, I'm in talks with James Tarot to get him on the show to talk about plinths and
Cool.
accessories for knights, and also might as well talk about some painting stuff because he had a very successful trip, taking gold
He
in the
certainly
epic
did.
scale with his Reaver Titan as well.
Absolutely flawless. That was spectacular.
Yeah, which it got commended, I think, in the UK last year. Then he went away and, obviously did a lot of work on it. And then put little solar auxiliary guys on the feet as well, which is phenomenal. So cool. But yeah, interesting Golden Demon chat. I think it could be worth, if you're interested in that kind of thing and you haven't checked out Cult of Paint's YouTube channel, I think they might go into a little bit about. Well, put it this way, GW didn't send many staff over to Adepticon this year. The one thing about the preview show I was going to talk about was the video footage that you would watch here. That was shown on a screen in the preview. It wasn't no one live at Adepticon doing the show like they normally would. They just showed a video. So when you're stuck in a room and there's a few hundred people in there, and maybe I think the comment was when you're talking about Warcry and less than like 5% of the room care about the game rather than the models, they would move on if they were doing it live. And
interesting.
Restless people. And we saw last year not that many. Like there were American judges for at least two, I think. Certainly Caleb did some judging for Golden Demon, and this year it wasn't anyone who really is known for their competition level painting and judging. So a real shame, which maybe there are certain entries that maybe feel like they should have done better than they did. I don't know. You certainly open yourself up to those questions when your judges are known for their event organisation skills, rules writing skills, and who else is the other one? General kind of like over, a well-rounded kind of Warhammer knowledge rather than he's one of the best painters in the company or he's one of the best painters the company's ever had, which is a shame. And it's not really fair on the event and on Americans who will have, not as many will be able to travel over to the UK or Europe in this instance to partake. But hey, Golden Demon. You have some controversies around, haven't you?
Oh yeah, you got to, particularly in something that's evolving like that. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I'm going to try and track down some of that conversation.
We can talk afterwards. It's all good. As I say, I think Culture of Paint will be talking about Richard Gray's open competition.
Yeah.
Grot is amazing. There's so many amazing things. And then finally, Warhammer Heroes. They've announced the winners.
Yes, yeah, that's that. It's hot off the
Quite a
presses, isn't
through,
it?
wasn't there? Like 5, 6, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 21, 24 winners. Don't know if that's a reflection of the fact it hasn't been around for a while. But hey, who cares? What's interesting is the lack of known names from the worlds of podcasting, YouTube, those kind of things. Like there are people who are known, but most of these people I don't know. I love that Craig and Noah Brown won. I think that's amazing.
I thought it was a really interesting and really cool selection, sort of diverse mixture of people doing different things. I thought that was a
countries
good
as
move.
well.
Yeah,
Uruguay,
mainly different territories. Yeah.
A lot of people doing lots of good work for charity or having a significant effect on their local communities, which is probably where these things should be. I wonder if people have got a bit better in writing their inputs. I know we talked about this previously. I know that when certain names get, or when, say, a name, any name, say my name, right? Say if suddenly 100 people wrote Greg down, they would ask people in the know who knew me, who could be like, is there anything going on here? Is Greg asking people to vote for him?
Yeah. Is
That
this
kind of
becoming a thing? Yeah.
which is, sensible to do. I'm using my name there so I don't offend anyone unduly. But that's good to see. Or are they problematic people as well? That's the other one. But yeah, no, it's cool. It's a real good mix, and a couple of notable shout outs as well to special recognition from some people who've not with us. It's good to see things going out to people who are no longer with us as well, like to not be ignored on that front. Eddie and Maria, for whatever they've done. But it's cool. I do want to say thank you. I know a few people nominated me. I didn't really want to bring it up beforehand because although I really do want to win a medal, it's a bit crass, isn't it? It's a bit to bring it up beforehand would. I don't want to then put a kind of pressure on or anything like that, But I do want to thank anyone who did do that. It's very kind. No matter, I've run events, I do a podcast. We've been a positive podcast for a long time. Doesn't really compete with that, does it? So
it's not in the same category.
Or someone else raising
good,
40, or someone else raising £40,000 for charities through running events. It's a whole different beast, isn't it?
It's hard to. You can't make that comparison. Like I say, I don't think anyone should be too. I mean, it depends how one goes about these things.
Yeah.
But if one is interested in winning something or is keen to do so, I don't think that's something that's problematic in itself. Just a question how people go about it. And as you say, this is a worthy suit of winners here that you see this of what they're doing in a particular field, and you just say that's great.
I had a couple of people reach out to me and say, by the way, we've nominated you, and
that's a lovely gesture. Yeah,
exactly, and that's just what I wanted to bring to say. I just think the right time to do it is after I don't win.
To do that as it's still open, I agree. That doesn't feel quite right. It looks like and it looks like it's got an agenda, which is not the case.
By the way, did you know that some people vote for me for?
It doesn't come across as being genuine, does it? If you do it in the wrong order.
But yeah, it's cool. It's just a very sweet thing for people to do, and it's one of those things I don't think guys a lot of the time, but wargamers particularly, I don't think we're always very good at saying thank you to people in a way that's meaningful. So to actually have a couple of people reach out and do that for running events and for other aspects within the community and the channel and everything else, and other people have been with me involved in all of those things as well. So I'm not sitting here like saying it's all me. Although I think maybe just for being part of the London GT of the Olympic Stadium probably deserves its own medal as a completely separate entity, or a pin badge at least.
That had its own. Yeah, that had its own recognition for that. Yeah.
Yeah. I have the scars
Yeah.
that deserve that. Anyway, I think we'll probably leave that there. Should we just jump straight into this book?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It's a tasty thing, isn't it?
Indeed. Okie dokie, let's take a look at the Shattered Legions. Part 2 for us, part 1 for you. We've recorded this section already, so
What we did was a dry
happen.
run because we're very slick and professional. So we
And
don't
now,
mention any hiccups. It was a very slick dry run. Now we're going straight in.
and now the chances are, by the time you read this, you've seen all the rules, read all the rules, owned the book. But hey, that might change the way we go through it. So the Shattered Legions rules. So these represent groups of warriors from multiple legions, 2 or 3 in this case, who are outside normal structure and are fighting in these little bands, highlighted. The original Shattered Legions are the survivors of the Isfahan drop site, but that even in lore that has been expanded out to cover any of these groups who are fighting in this ad hoc manner, and designed to represent them utilizing each other's strengths. I think for me, the kind of prime example of this is Medusson, who, when you look at it, he's very much about we need to learn from other legions. We need to be utilizing, I say, all the different skill sets we've got to do that.
There's a lot of very cool Meduson stories out there, which is sort of because it was a part of it wasn't part of the main thrust, if you like,
No.
of the heresy. There's a lot of very cool short stories out there, which really kind of defined, I thought, what Shattered Legions were. So I agree with you that side of it, but I think it's quite cool that they've looked at various other ways you could do that, and they give examples in this book as well, but how you could just have a mixture of almost any group of legionaries.
Oh, yeah, you absolutely can have any. Yeah, and Meduson strides that thing between the Shattered Legions and being a focal point for the Iron Warriors and the issues they're going through. But we're looking at the Shattered Legion. Iron Hands, apologies. Iron whatever.
Pedantic, what?
Indeed. All the same, aren't they? So, essentially, there's a designer's note straight on, which is like, these are rules where you have to get to learn what you're doing, right? It's not going to be straightforward to start off with. People have called them complicated. I don't necessarily think they're complicated. I think there's just a lot of information. And when that information applies, you just need to be checking stuff. It's not difficult to comprehend, but it's something you have to be aware of how to use the book, how to use the rules, basically.
Yeah, I think it's interesting they put in a designer's note. You tend to only see that on sort of legacy PDFs and things like that, or something that's a little bit adjacent. So they've acknowledged that there's some extra steps to this, and you need to take that into account. It's sort of, you go in forewarned, which I think is perfectly sensible. But I agree with you. It's not. I don't see it as particularly complicated. It's just perhaps onerous, if you want to look at it in a negative term.
Yeah, there's a lot of information, and you need to know when it applies. Yeah. But nothing in here is like, oh, how does that work?
No.
Not a lot of it's like that. It's like, oh, what is the situation I'm in? I have to look it up. Okay.
And I think you can
do that a lot.
You do, and I think there's ways you can immediately address that with, or rather improve that with, you say make yourself a little set of cards or a cheat sheet or however format you want to do that. I think that would massively help this. If you were looking up in books, yeah, exactly, and I think they're bang on. I think that actually overcomes 90% of the challenge with this.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go through that aspect of it, but definitely if I'm playing Shattered Legions, I will have the rules that I am using printed out twice. I will have one copy for me, one copy for my opponent, because actually the bigger problem here is not you, because you played 4 or 5 times, you start to get a grip on what's going on. It's when your opponent hasn't really played it before and then they're stopping to ask questions all the time. You have to be willing to be open and upfront to having questions asked of you, but also I'd be, pre, targeting that by saying, here's my rules, you can look at it any time, and what have you as well. So, Legion's detachments must be the primary, and you cannot have any other detachments at all. So that's not just allies and stuff, it's Lord of Wars. Lords of War, Lord of Wars. Both work. Lords of Wars. Detachments. And then you select 2 or 3 legions from the following, which is a list of all 18 legions. So yeah, there's no distinction on your traitor and loyalist elements are handled here without need for an allies thing or whatever you're presumed to be. As a Shattered Legions, you're presumed to be all on the same page within that, and all of your models must represent the legion that they represent. So, say we take White Scars, Imperial Fists, and Blood Angels as a Siege of Terror Shattered Legion, then you need to paint White Scars, Imperial Fists, and Blood Angels, and those individual models are those legions for purposes of working out rules.
Which I think is
Nice
fair
and simple.
enough, because you are.
Absolutely.
It's crucial to the way it works that you can tell the difference between each thing.
Yes, and it's not just you can tell; it's your opponent can
Yeah,
tell, and also it will help things massively in terms of the speed
yeah,
if you're doing stuff. If you can, particularly if you've got different coloured legions, if you choose Dark Angels, Raven Guard, and Iron Hands, it might slow things down a little bit. But there's ways around that. Cool. So the rules themselves. So veterans, Legion veterans with this special rule may be selected as troops and gain the line unit subtype. Any Shattered Legions unit that has a dedicated transport gains the support squad rule, and no upgrade may be selected that is restricted to a specific variant of the Legion's starting special rule, excluding the Legion's starting Shattered Legion, unless there's a rule that overrides that. So there's rules about equipment, things like that, but it means you're not having just Terran Terminators, and you're not having whatever you want.
Legion
You're not having
specific,
it.
whatever. Yeah, Legion specific, regardless of armor.
Yeah, absolutely. Did I say in the other one you kind of Primarchs as well, which is obvious, but they are taken out as well. So,
Interesting
pretty
move,
simple.
putting the dedicated transport mounted squads going to support squad means that it kind of doubles down on the idea of them being a guerrilla type force. You can't have a mechanized force this way.
No, absolutely.
Fine.
It's more of a rules thing. It's a rules to help the flavor, but like there's no like real law reason for it, if you know what I mean. It's just basically we don't want to see Shattered Legions running around with loads of different vehicles, loads of
loads of Legion equipment. Yeah,
particularly like load of Land Raiders and things like that. It's not cool. There were restrictions on rights of war, weren't there? So you can't have a Primarch or Demon
yeah. Because I was
Primarch.
wondering that. I was wondering, could you take the orbital assault one and take them all and take them in drop pods, for example?
No,
Probably not.
Independent characters rules can select options, except for I missed this bit from earlier. Consularis upgrades, so you can't have things like a Spaceful Thanes or the Imperial Fist. What they called the
Castellans.
The Castellans. Yep, you can't have them. Those kind of things. You can't have any of that stuff. It's all in quotation marks, bog standard upgrades in that respect, but they are allowed things like, say, Legion specific war gear for your independent characters. Note that restrictions based on allegiance will still apply. So that's allegiance is loyalist traitor. And that kind of thing as well.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that would be right, isn't it? Allegiance rather than. Yeah, it would be right. I'm just double checking now, actually. Let's read this. It's been a while. It's been a while since we recorded this.
So restrictions of equipment, presumably,
Yeah.
based on allegiance, or warlord traits, presumably.
Yeah, because they don't get their own warlord
No,
traits in that. So, just trying to
it's from
find.
the armory page. Yeah, it's armory. It's not warlord traits,
Yeah.
actually.
Okay. Well, we might get into that in
I
a.
feel like that's possibly a future-proofing thing. I can't think of anything off the top of my head where something from the armory is locked to a specific allegiance.
No, I mean, yeah. Who knows? Like, I was just trying to go through again. Wasn't there something about there's no right to war specific, are there?
No.
So, yeah, because we're talking about because the Blackshield. I'm getting confused between this and Blackshields, which is always fun. Anyway, so moving on. So we got those rules all in play, and then the fundamental aspect of the legions is having so every unit must have a representation of every legion you've selected. So if you've got 2 legions, you've got Space Wolves and Thousand Suns working together, then every unit must have a Space Wolf, at least one Space Wolf model, at least one Thousand Suns model, if you can. If you've only got one model in the unit, you don't do that. If you've got 3 models, you must have. If you've got, again, Siege of Terror, you've got Imperial Fists, White Scars, Blood Angels must have at least one model from each in the unit, unless you've only got a unit of 2. Then you can choose which 2 you want, but it must be one each of the 2 you choose. You can't have 2 from the same one. If you have a model like a land speeder, that you can have 2 crew painted up differently, but it's whatever the land speeder's painted as, which will then determine which rules you are using. Again, just keeping it nice and clean and clear. But that feeds into this majority and minority rule. So all 18 legions have a list of, they have hero abilities, what are they called? Hero abilities, major, minor, and floor. And your heroes will always get the ability associated with their legion. Your major, minors, and floors are determined on the numbers in the units. So, if you've only got vehicle unit types can never benefit from hero traits, which is always good. Remember that. So all models with a Legion status Legion special rule, composed entirely of a model representing a single Legion, get the minor benefits shown under the mutable tactics trait and the floor. So if you've got a Dreadnought, you're getting the minor tactic and the floor. If you've got tac squad, but the only one Legion's left, so there's 5 left, and they're all Blood Angels, you're getting this as well, because this is worked out at the start of every phase, which sounds daunting. If you have a mixed unit, 2 or more, then the majority models within that unit get the major benefit, and then in addition, all models with the also suffer the flaw for the mutable tactics of the Legion with a minority of units, and the minor from the minor. So again, let's go. Right, 10 tacticals. We got 5 Blood Angels, 2 Imperial Fists, and 3 White Scars. You're getting the Blood Angels major, and you're getting the Imperial Fists minor and floor. It's fairly straightforward. So again, like, there's a lot of words, but that's easy to do. Again, if you've got a single model after split, as we said, you've got the minority and the floor.
Do you think tokens would help here?
Yes.
I think tokens on the units, which you then switch around, would be quite a visual thing for you and your opponent, wouldn't it? That would be quite useful.
Yeah. I think so. This is done at every phase, however, and we'll get into this. you don't need to know every unit every phase, because you just they might not be involved in that phase. On the first turn enemy assault phase, do I need to tell you what every unit is or work out what every unit is? No. Also, if there's a clear majority in one, I don't even need to know what it is. It's going to come into play as it
Yeah.
comes into play. The only time you need to be thinking ahead, you might need to know for your opponent to be able to remind them what rules in play. But the only time you need to know as a player is when you've got units with, again, we'll take 4 Blood Angels, 3 Imperial Fists, 3 White Scars. Oh, because they're even on the lower end, I get to choose which one. And the same goes for the top end. So only when you have units where there are even numbers do you need to even make a decision anyway. And you can do it particularly in your opponent's turn. You can be like, okay, cool, moving phase, I've got nothing, but in the shooting phase, okay, let's throw these down because they last the whole phase.
Yeah.
And in the combat phase, it might be useful as well. But I think a lot of the time you're just not going to need to. So,
No, I agree. Yeah.
you know, and you will as a player be picking up on that. I think for your opponent, if they don't play Shattered Legions very often, it might be trickier, particularly for the opponents who need to know. I'm thinking of one specific person we both know who might who will want to know all the variables, and it's like that will be tricky. But that's a very unique situation, I think.
Yeah, I would
Right.
imagine you're going to be bringing this into an environment where you and your opponent are have a bit of an understanding. You're going in to have fun with this.
Even
You're
then, I
kind of on
just think
board with it, and I think, as you say, certain people, certain mindsets, it would make this more
tricky.
time consuming than it would otherwise be. But I don't think it's not insurmountable by
Oh
any
no, not
stretch.
at all. No, absolutely. Just a quick note that if you have contradictions, flaws take priority over other traits and then majors. So it's flaws, majors, and then minors. Nice and simple. Again, so. It, and let's say it's done at the start of the phase. So if you shoot me with your, whatever las cannon squad, and I lose 6 dudes, I take them off, and then you shoot me with something else. Nothing's changed. I don't have to rework anything in that phase. And because you've only got 3 legions, yes, you've got a minor, a major, and a flaw. But actually, as I say, they only affect certain things anyway. You will get very quickly used to what's my major, what's my minor, what's my flaw. Okay, for 3 different things, it's potentially nine of those. But again, they're phase specific almost all the time. So you will be filtering stuff out. And I mean, for learning the game, maybe just start with 2 legions. Make it easy, you know. But hey, it's all good. Do we want to pick out some? Should we do some examples of some
I
ones
think
that
so,
are?
because there's some interesting mechanics here which I feel are going to be FAQ'd, and they are things that I'm just from seeing people's reactions to
Oh.
these are reacting quite negatively. There are some.
Well,
I think they're
okay.
all quite flavoursome.
Show me one of these ones that's causing. Oh, are you talking about Night Lords?
No, that's
That's
the
one of
obvious
them.
one. That's the
So Night
obvious
Lords,
one. The
just for
one that
those who don't
seems to
know.
be most significant. Yeah, and obviously we can get
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah. Well, let's use the Night Lords as an example, right? So the Night Lord's hero trait is Fear 1. Cool. Nice and simple. That, to be fair, that one's in play all the time. But it's nice and simple. And heroes are nice and simple. You can literally lay them out. That's not a problem.
They are all great, I think, and just straightforward.
Yeah,
All of
pretty
them.
good.
There's none of
Yeah.
them have a mechanic. It's just here's a special rule which you add to
Yeah,
them.
usually. Yeah, absolutely. Then major. At the start of the fight subphase, if this unit outnumbers the enemy models in that combat, you get +1 to hit until the end of the phase. And bulky, blah, blah, blah. Cool. Nice and simple. Happens in the fight phase. Brilliant. Then minor. When making a sweep in advance with this unit, you can roll an additional d6 and discard one of them. Awesome. Well, that also happens in the fight subphase. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? All right. So you know that all your benefits for Night Lords for units are in the fight phase. So you don't have to worry about them any other time. Their flaw. This unit may not declare a charge unless it outnumbers the target unit. again, bulky, blah, blah, blah. In addition, if the unit is a loser in assault, it's additional -1 penalty to their morale check. Okay, so that's across 2 phases, but again, it's fairly straightforward. I'm charging this unit, six Night Lord dudes. Okay, do I outnumber you? Yes, no. Cool, no worries. The problem with this one is single model units have both the
Absolutely.
minor and the floor, and specifically dreadnoughts are a thing where they don't have bulky, they don't have a number attached to them, don't have a special rule attached to them, they number 1. So your Night Lord's dreadnought can never charge, which seems like an oversight.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that's a problem. I don't think that's a problem with the Shattered Legions rules, and maybe these are written with something in mind. Who knows? But it would be good for dreadnoughts to get bulky X, or according to their wounds or what have you. But that's,
I mean, yeah, that is one solution, is that they get bulky something.
and this might
Another
be
solution,
written
you
with
just FAQ it and say it doesn't apply to dreadnoughts or something, or it doesn't apply to single model things or something. I don't know, but then it just sort of takes it out. Similarly, if they ever had them, well, I suppose a dreadnought's never going to get the major trait, is it?
No,
so it doesn't affect that way.
But the issue is not really the floor. The issue is that there's a bigger issue in dreadnoughts counting as one model, fundamentally. So it would be better if they went and changed that rule, because that works on a number of other things, and would make it a bit smoother. But yeah, nice and simple. Night Lords are bullies. We know this, and they all seem to fit.
Well, because the flip side of that is the Sons of Horus one, which means their minor trait means that if they outnumber if this unit is outnumbered by enemy models, rather, then you get +1 to hit. A Sons of Horus dreadnought is always going to be outnumbered. Therefore, it always gets +1 to hit.
Well, not always.
Beneficial in his case.
Can be even.
That's true. True.
Can be even, but yeah, most of the time it's going to be outnumbered, and you won't get your bonus, but you will still get your floor every time almost. Yeah. So again, solving dreadnought solves that, plus a number of other things. So we'll see where they go with it, but yeah, I'd prefer it to be that. Would be more a more elegant solution would be to resolve dreadnoughts on that.
But overall,
yeah, because Sons of Horus,
all of these rules are quite flavoursome. I think. Yeah. I think they capture the Legion rather well.
Yeah, because you look at the Sons of Horus one. Okay, punishing volley, which we've seen in other aspects. Basically, if you're within 12 inches, they get +1 to hit, which is a very Sons of Horus thing to do, as they've set out in the lore. As you say, basically, you get +1 to hit if you're outnumbered, because they're like, cool, we're better than you, and we're going to prove it. Whereas if they're not outnumbered, it's a bit beneath them, which shows you the flaw, where if you want to declare a reaction, the enemy have to outnumber you to be able to make that reaction. So, yeah, again, their arrogance is on show. And there's loads of cool ones. The flaws, I feel, if you're playing this narratively, none of these rules really matter too much, because you're choosing to play your narrative. You're choosing to use your original 3 Shattered Legions, your Siege of Terror Shattered Legions, or your Homeworld Revenge Fleet for the traitors, maybe, with Death Guard, Iron Warriors, and where else did they blow up? The Dark Angels went around blowing up planets.
Did they? No, I was going to say the word bearers, but that was the Ultramarines, wasn't it?
Yeah, maybe those two. Just whatever you could do.
Whatever. Chimos, Emperor's Children.
Yeah, there we go. Right, 100 million different ideas for stories, for mixes of legions, whether it's 3, whether it's 2. You're going to roll with it if that's what you're going to do. If you're thinking about the rules, I think the one thing you will look at is the flaws, because in some cases they are more restrictive than the benefits, if you know what I mean. Certainly they could be very frustrating for you if you want to play a certain style.
Yes, they could be more limiting than the others could be enabling, but they're not dramatic, are they?
No, but things like I love the Imperial Fists. They're so well drilled that if their flaws in play, they must use a reaction point if they're able to do so. So a good opponent will bait that out in a game setting. Then that can be. If that's going to frustrate you as a player, then maybe you don't take Imperial Fist. So that's what I mean. Like the benefits are benefits, but restrictions, limits, any bad rules can have a negative effect on you if they influence the way you play the game too much. Again, for some people, no. For some people, yes. Like, you just have to be aware of that. If it's going to be something that you don't like, then probably don't play them. But I like them. I really like them. I don't know. I don't know what I
think
would
they're all
do as
good.
a Shattered Legion. I mean, I know what I'd do because I'll have some Space Wolves. I don't know what I'd add to them.
But it's quite nice for people who have perhaps had that hobby butterfly, and I count myself in that.
Big time.
You think, oh, that's cool, and I'm working towards building up small forces of a number of legions rather than just having tens of thousands of points of one legion, which some collectors go for. If you've gone down that route, this provides you some interesting options. So rather than just playing a small force of one particular legion, actually you could combine a bunch and try out some different things. I think that's really quite fun.
Yeah. Just means I'm going to base all my stuff all the same anyway for every game system anyway, just because A, it's easy, and B, I can use allies as I wish. So for me, the one thing it might do is make me consider weathering up stuff that I'm not bothered with before, potentially, just because of the nature of what they are. But essentially, these are the rules. You've got no warlord trait. You've got no advanced reaction. Fine. Whatever. We've seen that with Custodes and Mech and other things to a greater or lesser extent. I'm not that bothered by that because you're not playing. I mean, you might decide you found the broken combo and want to play it that way. Fine, but that's not what this is about.
There's
You've got
enough
access
other
to
stuff
all
going
the
on as well.
Yeah, you've got access to all the regular Legio rules. And I think I really like it. There was a little bit of, you could just do this and take all the best rules, and I've got a heavy support squad. Of course, I'm going to have Iron Warriors with one Death Guard and one Emperor's Children dude in there. It's like, yeah, cool, you do that, mate. But if I sat there with 5 Recon Marines and I shoot you and I shoot those 2 dudes out, then actually you're not getting your major trait anymore, and I don't even know what the Iron Warrior's minor trait is. I got a leadership characteristic of 10. Cool. That's not +1 to wound rolls against Automata and Dreadnought, or +1 AP rolls, is it? So, yeah, you do you. Try and min-max the unit, and you never know, you might get found out.
And how long is it going to last? Exactly that. You say it's fairly easy to break.
Well, yeah, there are circumstances in which it might not work how you want it to, and if you're that kind of player, the chances are you're going with that approach. You're playing other people with that approach. So then, cool, that becomes a different game, and that's fine.
It's providing more options.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can sit here. There's 18. I don't know how many combinations there are with 18 legions. Picking 3 or picking 2. That's a host of legions that you can choose from. So there's a lot to look at within that, and I think it's really cool.
I do too. I think it's flavoursome. It is. They've gone. Someone's really kind of gone in with both feet on this. They could have watered this down considerably, and some people might have preferred that. But I think if you're going to do it, go big. It feels like that's entirely what they've done.
So the 2 major complaints I saw were, well, this is not law, abeyant and blah 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 blah. It's like, well, yeah, there are different ways of doing Shattered Legions. There are squads of dudes running around in their own Legion colours. Well, if you want to do that, you can just have allies. So crack on. Yeah, it's, you can't have allies without the HQs, but there's cheap HQs and there's other ways of doing that. Also, as we said with Meduson particularly and the crew of the Sisypheum, there are groups that are absolutely mixed together that are about, okay, cool, this salamander's helping us, or this imperial fist is helping us dig in, and this raven guard is helping teach us how to move quietly and showing us where to go, and that's what this is representing, and this is more flavorful than just plonking in other Legion units, I feel. The second one was, as we said earlier, it's been called unplayable because it's overly complicated and you have to work everything out. And I think that's a very lazy kind of view of it. I think I don't. We're not saying these are perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Your first game will probably take a long time, and you'll miss rules. Hey, that happens for a lot of people with the normal rules. So if you're that kind of person, and you know that you struggle to pick stuff up, like play smaller points, don't take it to an event 2 weeks after you started reading the rules. That kind of thing is always a case. The only place I see it potentially really slowing a game down once you know what you're doing is, in theory, you should be slow rolling your saves on units with multiple Legion in. Because it's all very well to roll 10 saves, lose 3 dudes, and go, oh, I'll take one of each. But when you're going, oh, I'll take I'll roll. I want to kill the salamander first, and then I want to kill the imperial fist, and then I want to kill the whatever white scar. Like, you should be rolling your saves to do that, and then when you get to the end, who are you going back to? Because actually, you might only be left with one salamander at that point. So, so you should be a little bit conscious, and there are ways to do it where you can quickly slow roll. So you could pick up 3 dice and go, look, I'm taking one of each off, starting salamander, fist, white scar, and roll sets of 3 dice. Oh, saved all the first 3, brilliant. Oh, failed 1, okay, cool. Well, I'll roll 2 sets of 2 dice now. Okay, yep, save. Oh, lost 1, okay. 1 guy left, I'll slow roll these ones. You can do those things as well. So it's not, but you might be wanting to do that. But as you say, most of the time you're going to look down and go, oh, there's 6 iron hands in that one and 2 white scars. Brilliant. I've got the iron hand rule and the thingy rule. Like, oh,
I think
we're in combat, so the iron hand rule doesn't matter, or whatever it is.
I think you're right. To describe them as unplayable seems like a very. I think it is quite an extreme way to call it unplayable. I feel like you need to get quite a few games in before you could make those kinds of statements, and I think even then it's going to be quite personal. I feel that's quite dramatic way of saying it. I think you get a few games of this in, I think it would start to click quite well. As you've said, right. I don't feel it's unplayable.
Yeah, and there were a few comments about the design team and things like that, and
it's unnecessary,
which is which is unnecessary and a bit crass. I understand there was a kind of there's an argument to say they shouldn't be having to be put in a bit at the front to say, maybe these aren't used in tournaments, things like that. But again, so there's no doubt that this version, second edition, is much more of a matched play friendly system of rules than the original. But Horus Heresy still maintains a narrative base, right? Our expansions are campaign books. Two out of 3 have been campaign books, with a lot of background in them, and that's what they're designed to do. So this is all about telling a story, and this might not be for you, fine, and this might not be for Horus Heresy tournaments. Frankly, Horus Heresy tournaments are still like 5 to 10% at most of all the Heresy events I see. And even those, some of them are like, it's a tournament, but don't bring a really powerful list, which, by the by, whatever you think of that, they're still trying.
Yeah,
exactly. They're still trying to maintain this idea of narrative, which, the problem is no other GW game straddles it that way. Like, you go look at your specialist games like Necromunda, there is no competitive kind of Necromunda. we can do it, but it's very much like, this is crazy. All these rules are mental.
It would be a bit of a waste of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The old world is the only comparison, but the old world has different issues where it's come from Warhammer Fantasy, which used to be a very tournament-based game, and therefore a lot of the old players are picking it up that way, and I think are missing out on the fact that it's probably better as a narrative game, or at least a storytelling game of some kind. But yeah, I if I if I ever get any painting done, I could see myself adding something to my walls to have fun with this.
What would you be inclined to add?
I don't know. I just looked down at World Eaters and I was like, oh. But then all the rules happen. No matter what you're doing, you're getting rules in the charging and combat phase. Would make it fairly simple. I honestly don't know, to be honest. I don't know what other legions I would like with them. I'd be tempted to pick just because I'm contrary, a traitor legion, loyalist parts of a traitor legion.
Particularly Thousand Suns, as your example earlier.
Yeah. How about Dark Angel, Space Wolves, and Thousand Suns?
That would be hilarious.
Just to see people explode on the table.
It sounds like the basis of some sort of sitcom.
It does. A Dark Angel, a Space Wolf, and a Thousand Suns walk into a bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. You got Beta-Garmon when the Raven Guard come and help the Space Wolves out. You could do that. That could be quite cool. But I haven't.
That's Yarrant, isn't it?
Yes, Yarrant, but it is on Yarrant, but haven't the wolves run away, retreated to Yarrant? Either way, yeah. That whole thing, which is happening around that time.
The force that goes up against them is something like Sons of Horus, Thousand Suns, and somebody else. That's another candidate for this. There's lots of times where you do get those. Particularly the later heresy, you get loads of examples of these mixed forces, which this kind of then, by definition, lends itself to.
Yeah, and there's just that huge amount of space, as we know. You could have the Dark Angels. You could do Space Wolves Dark Angels post Prospero when in Wolf King, when they end up, find them in the Alexis Nebula. So yeah, not seriously easy to throw that in as well. Yeah, I mean, 7.5 years of war. So this is not you're not having the only special characters that you've got access to, the ones with Shattered Legions in them. So there's so much space to write your own story. I'd actually be tempted to have anything with Meduson in because he's just cool. But
yeah. Well, as is Endred Har, of course.
Yes, indeed.
Warhounds would be excellent.
Well, they're Blackshields, aren't they?
Fangs of the Emperor, yeah. Well, yes, that nicely brings us
indeed
to
into a segment.
Blackshields.
Oh, I think we'll take a break and then we'll come back to Blackshields.
Good idea.
Indeed, let us jump into Blackshields. So, what are Blackshields, Howard?
Blackshields are those. There's a whole range of them defined in here, but they're those who have thrown off the need to display the colours as a legion. So they have rejected their parent legion wholesale and are derived from that idea of, well, we're going to cover over our shield, our iconography, and be something else entirely. There's loads of narrative reasons why that might be. And there's a nice little section in here of giving you ideas of what they've done, and it goes even further to have rules to represent those.
Indeed. So, yeah, just as a quick one. So, fed up with the war completely and just want to go away and do their own thing, but no, they have to fight to get space to do it. Was a traitor, has decided to become a loyalist, but doesn't want to, doesn't want to be a loyalist, whatever, and just, wants to shred all the whatever kept them to their old legion. Or a classic one is never quite fitted in because they're monstrous beasts because they didn't, the Raven Guard, whatever they call, or the Wolfen, or those kind of things as well. 3 very quick examples there. So the rules. So a primary detachment, when included as part of a primary detachment, you count as having both a loyalist and traitor allegiance for anything that targets you, basically. If there are rules that
That's
target
quite cool.
loyalist or traitor, indeed, so you're getting the worst of that. When you are an allied detachment or a non-primary detachment, then you're the same allegiance as the primary detachment. And then they're always distrusted allies if you're using those rules. And you can't have agents of the Emperor or War Master, so no Legio Custodes, Sisters of Silence, that kind of thing. Pretty straightforward. Campaign stuff, cool. You basically choose your allegiance at the start. There we go. You may not use Rights of War, but you have Oaths of Vengeance and Wrath later on, so that replaces your Rights of War here. You're going in for a different army here. And then you've got Warlord traits for them as well. But they also have an advanced reaction, unlike the Shattered Legions. Once per battle, during the opponent's player's assault phase, when an enemy unit that includes any model with a Primarch, unique, Master of the Legion special rule, or is the enemy's Warlord, when that unit declares a charge against a friendly unit under the active player's control, and if the charge is successful, all models in the unit that was charged gain Fearless for the duration of that whole combat. And any model in that unit that is in base contact or engaged in a challenge with a character gets +1 attack, or if it's a unique unit as well, gains +2 attacks for the duration of that whole combat. So the enemy Primarch and his dudes all run into you, then you're fearless until they've wiped you out or you wipe them out, or broken or what have you, and you might be getting plus attacks. That's cool.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that they've widened that net to cover actually quite a few different command or higher level officers or warlords or whatever, I think that's quite cool. Because it's going to come into effect quite often.
It's only when you're charged. So the only issue with this is you're aiming. They might only have a warlord, might not have any Master of the Legion, might not have any unique, might not have Primarchs. And if you end up charging them, you might never get to use this. But hey, you're charging them instead of them charging you, so they're not getting any charge bonus. So, hey, work it out.
Yeah,
Either way.
I still think it's quite cool.
It is cool.
I think it represents this idea of them being renegades and angry at an established chain of command. I think that's quite good.
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely wanting someone to take it out on. Which is cool. Warlord traits, the Bloody Tyrant. You gain fear, which affects all models, friendly and enemy. But any friendly units under the fear special rule and under the control of the warlord who's got the trait is forced to fall back or become pinned. You can instead just remove a single model as a casualty. No saving throws, no damage mitigation, and you do not fall back or become pinned. In addition, an army you get an assault phase reaction. Well, that's cool to keep running at the enemy.
It's a very sort of thematic one. This idea of this real nasty piece of work kind of guy who's shunned by everyone else, which is why you've gone off and become a Blackshield. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah. They might gain for the sacrifice. I was just double checking the range on fear, because it's been a while since it's come up for me. Can you remember fear as a rule?
I would have guessed 6 inches, but it's a guess.
Yeah, so if you want to, you have to keep your units together, which is less of an issue than it used to be for sure. That's weapon. Well, looking up stuff in these books, man. It's always a fun one, isn't it? Okay, there we go. 12 inches.
Oh,
Cool.
okay.
That's 24-inch bubble.
Oh, wow.
Of
Okay,
being able
that's
to
much
do
bigger
that
than I thought.
is pretty good. So good. In a game that has objectives as well, being able to choose not to fall back or become pinned for the cost of one model, and it's always your choice as well. That's the good thing. So and it's be forced to fall back or become pinned, so it's after you've rolled anything. So that's cool. Forgotten hero. If during any player's shooting phase the warlord is allocated at least one wound, whether it's saved or not, all other friendly models in the same unit gain a bonus of +1 to their weapon skill and strength characteristics until the end of the next player turn in which that unit makes a successful charge or is successfully charged by an enemy unit. It's not cumulative with anything else, though. May only benefit from maximum of +1 weapon skill and strength characteristics from this warlord trait. +1 weapon skill and strength is pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
Because that's that. I mean, your warlord's probably going to be in your bigger unit that you want to do stuff with, and it's allocated a wound. So if you've just taken one wound, you risk taking it on him. You might save it on your invulnerable anyway. So
that just makes it that much more likely to go off. Trying to engineer it so that it only applied when you fail to save, I think that would be quite difficult to do. Whereas that seems like you could get that to go off, and surely that's going to make your opponent think twice about firing at your warlord unit.
Trying to remember the wording now, because I play two any different games, because it's allocated the wound. So when do you allocate the wounds? That is the key. He says, again, flipping through his book. All fun.
Yeah, what's the actual sequence?
So, roll to wound, the wound pool, allocate wounds, and remove casualties. To be allocated and any saving throws resolved. There we go. So you allocate and then you make saving throws. So yeah,
which is your point about slow rolling.
Yeah, a model that has been allocated a wound can make a saving throw. So yeah, are you going to risk firing bolt guns at that unit if he's got 2 up armor save, and you might only be doing 6 wounds, because they can choose to put them all on him, or they can choose to keep rolling until they fail one with their 3 ups, and then put the 1 or 2 on him to then get the bonus. And that's a game that, as the Blackshields player, do you take the risk of taking 6 saves even on a 2+, or do you hope you lose one of your other dudes? Absorb that and then throw it over. That's a game. That's a game you've got to play.
Yeah, I mean, there's just an obvious thing there. Not obvious. It actually, so it's quite an interesting decision. But you would just say you take a pool, you play it as you would normally, but just make sure you put one on him.
Well, yeah, but you don't do that, do you? Because you choose a model and you keep hitting them till they go.
That's true. I was thinking you could reallocate later on, but no. Once you've committed,
you've got to be you've got to be a bit sensible. But I say if you've only got 10 dudes and you're thinking 10 dudes hit 6 times, wound 3 times, is it worth it? Maybe I won't. Is it worth it if I can hit you 3 times with a las cannon? Are you going to risk that? Or no, plasma would be better. Ending up with AP2 on plasma, 2 or 3 hits through. Is he going to risk taking 1 or 2 of those on a 4-up invulnerable to get this rule? Then that's a balance to be had. But it's cool. I like it.
Which, given the little description now, forgotten hero, the idea of this guy sort of stepping up to take the damage, stepping in front of his guys, it fits. Do you make him that character or not?
Indeed. And then finally, Twisted Strategist. At the start of the game, before the start of any player's movement phase, at the start of any game, blah, 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 blah. The controller player of the warlord may select one of the special rules listed below, and a single friendly unit from the same detachment gets those rules. So, and for the game turn. So, Shrouded, 6+, Rampage 1, Counterattack 1, Precision Shots 6. And a movement phase reaction. That's pretty cool, because
quite cool that it doesn't have to be a unit that the warlord has joined.
No, absolutely.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be. That's quite cool. And that they both get it. So the warlord gets it, and the
just
unit
get the
over
two
there
options.
can
You
get
can
it.
do this every turn.
Mm.
Start of any game turn before the start of any player's movement phase. So yeah, no restrictions on that. If you're drop podding in some vets or something like that with multi-melters, and you might decide I'm going to give them. Oh, they're going to be on the table probably actually. No, single friendly unit from the same detachment. Doesn't say they're going to be on the table. That might be an interesting one. Or driving up in a rhino, say you can go precision shots on that combi vet, combi weapon vet unit. Or I think I'm going to charge this turn, rampage on my Terminators, what have you. That's cool. It's nothing OTT, but there's some play in that depending on what you're doing, which I like.
But the fact that you can pick one of 4 special rules once 4 times, that's quite cool. Or rather, over 4 turns.
Yeah, no, I like it. Okay, so the meat and bones of the Blackshields is the Vengeance and Wrath. Oaths of Vengeance and Wrath. So basically they should be written on your army list. Like these are part of your composition of your army. And you're allowed up to 2 options. So you don't have to take 2, but I mean realistically, why would you not? And there's a few of them, shall we say? A few of them. So Oath, the Eternal Vendetta. Basically, pick an enemy legion, and you get +1 to hit rolls for all weapons with a melee type against them, and some other benefits as well. But you must charge them. Basically, you hate a legion, and this is not. You're not allowed to have any of that legion as allies. So this is you hate that legion, and you no matter what. This is the word bearers towards the Ultramarines. This is potentially Thousand Suns towards Space Wolves.
Right? Imperial Fists and Iron Warriors, etc.
Yeah, you're picking those ones who have this is a real, this isn't just we don't get on, I hate those traitors. This is no, I don't particularly like the loyalist members of them either. So yeah, we've got a grudge to bear. Really good for campaign games. If you're going to an event, saying unless you've got a specific event where you know there's a limited amount of legions available. So in the past, people have done campaign weekends from book 1, 2, 3 of the old black books, that kind of thing. If you were doing a Cowth campaign weekend, maybe you take this with your Ultramarines or your word bearers. Could be useful.
You couldn't be, say, loyalist world eaters and hate traitor world eaters because it doesn't differentiate between loyalist and traitor, does it? It's just a Legion Astartes special rule. Yeah.
May not be selected as part of an army that includes any models with the variant that you've chosen.
Yeah.
So it's not. This isn't the remnants of Isfahan 3 hating their own legion. This is I've always hated the World Eaters because of what they did on X, and we don't trust them. You can take it twice as well if you really wanted to. So, I mean, it seems like a bit of a waste of the Black Shield rules, but there we go. Panoply of War. You gain access to any unique war gear options available to the models with Legionnes Astartes X special rule variant as noted on the Oath. This does not allow these models to select warlord traits, rights of war, console types, trait upgrades, or other options available. So again, you're not getting your Thanes, your Castellans, that kind of stuff. But you are getting Great Wolf Blades. You are getting Solarite Fists.
Yeah.
You are getting other things. Stabby daggers in the
Alpha you get Emperor's. You get the Emperor Children spears. You get the Imperial Fist assault cannons, presumably. Yeah.
And you don't get units either. So again, you can take this more than once. So individual models could then have options from more than one legion, which is cool. So you could have salamanders and I don't know who's got a really good one-handed weapon that's in their option. It's not Imperial Fists because they can also take shields, but you could get you could get a salamander's shield for an awesome invulnerable save, and then a cool weapon from someone else, or cyber skulls and things like that. You can play around with that.
Ultramarine axe, I think you could
Yes,
do.
that would be a good one. But again, you're putting a lot of you're getting a lot of you're using a lot to get that. So it's models with this oath. So so it's not just that if your champions have access to stuff and things like that as well. So it's not just HM independent characters, but yeah, that's kind of cool. So that's to give you more flavour into your black shields, particularly if you want um, like like the one in the book, the fangs of the whatever it's called. There obviously are world eaters and kind of don't shy away from being majority world eaters, but they're just foregoing their history. That's cool to show that.
Yeah, it feels like that you've got a cool idea for the bulk of your breakaway group. You want to represent them with their cool gear. There you go.
Yeah. The next one causes a few issues potentially. Only in death, just duty, and I've seen people talking about like this is the one that I've seen in most people's lists. When you're called upon to take a morale check for any reason and in any phase, so only morale checks, not pinning checks and psychic tests. Any other leadership tests, just morale checks. You don't roll any dice, and check is considered passed. However, you immediately suffer D3 wounds, against which only invulnerable saves may be taken, no saving throws or damage mitigation rolls. Additionally, when a unit composed of models with this oath is entirely removed as casualties, no opposing player may score victory points for its removal. This includes for secondary objectives such as Slay the Warlord. Not all missions use objectives. So, and we've seen this with this potential with the White Scars Rite of War as well. That if I'm in a kill point game, I can't lose because you can't get any points from me. So the best you can do is draw 0-0. It seems I like the idea of it, but you have to be careful with your application of it, I think.
It feels like you could a variant on this or a tweak of this might be you pick X number of units.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
How you set that, I don't know, but is it 3? Is it 5? Is it 1? I don't know, but
I mean, to be
it's the fact that
honest,
it's the entire army.
yeah, it depends on the missions you're playing. Like the answer to this is to play objective missions where a few points are available for Slay the Warlord and stuff like that. Fair enough. If this is one of your 2 rules and it stops you losing losing a point for your Warlord being slain and a couple of points for other units being slain, fair enough. If the game is mainly victory points, then it's a bit of a negative play experience potentially. But it's a cool idea.
It is.
Essentially, these are warriors who are done. They've either mucked up or they've let something down, and they feel like, right, cool, no worries. I've got to atone for this, and I'm going full Slayer here.
Yeah, there's a number of legions that have got units that do this, and this is sort of taking that to the next level. So you could do, Medusan Immortals. Yes, you say the Space Wolf's got good examples there. We've got what are they called? The Oath Sworn, Death Sworn. Taking that a sort of step further in some ways.
Indeed. On the other kind of scale of that, you've got the those who are like, no, we're going to become marauders, pirates. We're going to set up our own empire, and we need the spoils of victory to be able to keep going. So instead of what you're doing, if we get to make a sweeping advance, we must instead roll a d6, and on a 4+, you get 1 victory point as you collect stuff. Which, okay, cool. you're getting a lot of extra. Again, actually,
You can
this
put
has
those two
potential.
together.
Yeah, but you've got potential here to get a lot of extra points. Yes, you're not killing the enemy, but if you're only in a game where there's only like 8 points available and you've swept 3 people or not had the choice to, and you roll well, you've got 3 points as a starting point. Can potentially unbalance the game a little bit, but it's a good idea. I like it. It's cool. But this is only
It,
units that can make sweeping advances. So cataphractic terminators can't do it. That kind of thing.
it certainly fits that renegade warband Blackshields mindset, which I think is it's a good thing to have
It
be able
reminds
to
me.
represent them.
So those two remind me a little bit of first edition Demon Armies, where
Okay.
they had the Dominions, and they were all about different ways of scoring points. And it just depended on the matchup you were in, because if you were playing Khorne as the Dominion, the Khorne one, and it was basically you got a victory point whenever a unit died in combat, friend or foe. When you come up against Custodes, well, guess what? Custodes don't have enough shooting to take you out. So all I need to do is get one dude into combat with you, and if you kill me, I get a victory point. So, awesome. And you might not be getting victory points for killing me. So it becomes a real imbalancer. But I don't know. Again, I think it depends on you're looking at scenarios to be able to factor those in. I think if I was writing an event pack, I'd be potentially writing an errata for these two rules to make them work within my event pack. I think that might be an option to say, look, these two rules aren't going to work like this because they just break the game in this pack. However, I will allow this, this, and this. These are what they do. And then you go in forewarned and forearmed, and if you want to take them, then you can.
But just tweaked, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. What we got next? An Eternity of
Energy of
War.
War.
So, if you fail a morale check caused by casualties inflicted by the enemy's shooting attack, you do not fall back, but instead make a consolidate move. Additionally, if you make a successful charge after suffering any casualties due to an enemy reaction triggered by that charge, then each wound inflicted by the reaction is counted towards the controlling player of the charging unit, i.e. you, their score to determine who has won. So, when you get shot, you don't fall back, but you can consolidate, and a consolidate move is any direction. So you can move forwards if you wish. And then when I charge someone, you stand and shoot me, kill 3 dudes. I'm starting the combat at +3 combat res because we're madmen, and
Yeah.
and we don't care. We just want to, proper madmen. We just want blood, like tear this empire down.
Yeah.
Whether we do it, you do it, who cares? However, at the end of except for turn one, at the end of every turn, bar turn one, if you're not locked in combat with a unit with this oath, then you take a single wound.
Oof. Wow.
Which only invulnerable saves may be taken, no other saving throws or damage mitigation. It's only 1 wound. However, it can be 3, 4, 5 turns that you're taking that.
It's an incentive, huh? It's certainly, isn't it?
Exactly. And you know what the enemy's going to be doing
Yeah.
coming at you, because that could add up, particularly on smaller units. Right? That's all expensive. That's that Terminators. Like you're losing a wound, might not be a Terminator. Stuff's got 2 wounds, so that's cool. But it can add up.
Yeah, that's going to kick in when you really don't want it to. But I like that it does really sharpen the mind, doesn't it?
Yeah. But you almost guarantee that if someone's taken that, they're coming at you. Which again, in a way, is a negative because you know what the opponent's going to be doing there, and also means it might be harder to hit on an objective. But that's cool. The flesh is weak. This is interesting. So infantry and cavalry unit types instead are automata unit types and gain feel no pain 5+. In the shooting phase, you must always shoot the closest eligible target, basically. If there are 2 or more, you can choose, and if you're incapable of wounding or causing a glancing hit, then you can choose to ignore that target. So if there's a rhino in front of me and you've got bolt guns, then you can shoot the unit behind it. But it always must be the next closest unit. But you do get transport bays on your transports, which is nice, which gives you allows automata to go in them for starters and increases their capacity by 3. So this is a real storytelling one for me.
It really is.
That's
Yeah, I was going
quite
to
a
say
big limiting
it
thing.
spins your mind, doesn't it? It was what you could do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that come in here is the Iron Hands, the keys to hell.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But yeah, these are people who
You could do
are
also the
delving into the metal.
Iron Warriors going down the route of the obliterator virus and that sort of thing.
Yeah, you could do. Yeah, I mean, again, you can fill in so many different kind of things for this. You're also not allowed psychers. Makes sense. But yeah, that's a real storytelling one that would be interesting to play, I think.
It would.
I'm trying to remember what the
You combine that with that rage-based one as well. It's quite cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Hold on. Must attempt to shoot and attack if there's an enemy unit within range. You can't run. No, because run is done in the movement phase. So you can't get around it.
Interesting.
Okay. So yeah, if you don't want to shoot, you can run. So yeah, this and the other one, just having these raging
Raging
robots.
machine warriors, yeah. Yeah.
Just don't worry about buying any guns and just have them running and or charging. I mean, the only bad thing is you're opening yourself up to shooting models that die that take you out of range of charging, and also having to shoot and therefore opening yourself up to reactions. But hey, you're not taking that because you think it's going to win you games. You're taking that because you've got a cool idea or you think it's cool.
You've got a really good idea for a narrative force, yeah.
And then the opposite side of that is Legacy of Nikeah. Guess what? You get to be Psychers for 25 points and gain the Warp Torrent Psychic Weapon and a Psychic Discipline as well. HQs get a subtype. There we go. At least 2 other models with the character unit subtype must be. So there's some restrictions around that. You do not gain access to Etheric Lightning unless you would otherwise. And Warp Torrent is 12-inch, Shrink 5, AB5, Assault 2, Deflagrate, Malignant Force, or boosted, Shrink 5, AB3, Assault 2. But for each unsaved wound on the attacking model's unit, due to perils, you increase the value by +1. Cool.
Okay.
Triggered by the Malignant Force special. So that, right. So for each unsaved wound inflicted on the attacker's model unit due to the perils of the warp attack triggered by the Malignant Force special rule, increases value by 1. Malignant Force. Cycle of the Warp Torrent, blah, 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 blah. If the option is chosen first, if this option is not chosen...
Oh, wow. It just kicks in. Perils of the Warp just kicks in automatically.
Automatic. Right. This might need an FAQ because there's nothing to say that those bonuses are restricted to the turn in which you shot. So, in theory, I fired this 4 times. By turn 4, I've lost 4 models or taken 4 wounds or whatever it is. I'm getting +4, even if I don't actually take any wounds this turn. So I suspect that might be added to the. That might be on that
add
turn.
the following to this.
Yeah, add the following. Yeah, during this turn. But yeah, it's cool. It's nothing special. It's fun. I like it.
Yeah. All of these are really just triggering ideas, aren't they? And like you immediately jump into specific legions and whatever. That's the kind of point of them. But yeah, because they don't want to be too powerful. There's no standouts so far, is there?
Well, I think there are. There are those 2, like Spoils of Victory and Only Death Just Duty End. If you're playing without the book and you want to win, like one of those 2 is giving you a bigger advantage.
I was thinking about in terms of just like raw killing power or whatever, or raw
no, there's not.
defensive power. There's nothing that's standing out like that. But
There's nothing sitting there thinking, "Oh shoot, this is going to take me off the table" or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. But you're right. That
there's
is
a clear
increased likelihood of winning games. Yeah,
I'm going to win this game. There's nothing you can really do about it because
Yeah.
I'm not going to die. I'm not going to lose any points dying. The Broken Helix. So
probably
this is
my favourite one.
Yeah, Gene Cloning, and this is probably the one I would take. So you lose all of the noted special rules you possess as a unit, but you gain either clone or aberrant, and it may not achieve objectives for removing unit that includes any model with a clean or aberrant special rules as casualties. Okay, so that's potentially another one there that you'd have to look at. But the special rules that get removed are Fury of the Legion, Heart of the Legion, Spite of the Legion, and Inexorable. And then you either get Clone or Aberrant. So Clone is all models with a special rule that do not also have the character unit subtrait must reduce their leadership and initiative characteristic by 1. And you gain a damage mitigation roll of 5+ against all wounds that do not inflict instant death. Doesn't stack. But you may not make reactions and are never pinned. So that's pretty cool. You're slightly slower, slightly less organised, but you've got this 5+ damage mitigation roll all the time. That's cool. And then Aberrant. If you do not also have the character subtype, reduce your leadership and ballistic skill characteristics by 1, but increase the strength characteristic by 1 permanently. And after making a successful charge, gain +1 additional bonus to strength until the end of that player turn. If you're within 12 inches at the beginning of the assault phase, you must charge, if you can.
So they're getting stronger. You don't get more attacks. You get stronger quite a bit. You get +2 on a turn you successfully charge.
So the opposing player may not achieve objectives for removing a unit that includes any models with either the clone or aberrant special rules casualties. So no Slay the Warlord. I'm trying to think so that's less impactful because it's got to be an objective to do with killing, unless the primary objective is kill all the elites, and get victory points for killing elites. Then you're not getting that again. So interesting.
I just spotted that you pick one, either clone or aberrant, and it applies to everyone.
Yes,
you don't get some clones and some aberrants.
No. You can't take it twice because that would be awkward. I like this. I like my first thing I jumped to. I think I prefer aberrant. I think that to me is your gene splicing gone wrong. Space Wolves have the Great Wolf Blades, which are 2-handed +2 strength, but strike at initiative. Well,
cool. Oh, bloody hell! Right.
Yeah, your strength 4 base.
They're
You become a strength 6.
Yeah.
Strength 8 on the charge, so you're instant killing. And there's ways to do that in the Space Wolf thing as well, but it's 1 turn. But this is every time you charge, which is cool, and that could represent your Wolfen for that, as you say.
Yeah.
Clones one's interesting. I never really thought about clones much before this.
Clone one first makes me think of almost like an early rubric or something. Someone's playing with that or something there, but obviously any Legion you could almost imagine it with Alpha Legion or anyone who's been doing something and pushing it a bit. Or you could see it with Death Guard. It applies to anyone actually. And you think
if it's Death Guard
induction,
it's this 5+ damage mitigation roll, which is cool. You're getting it free and you're slightly slower, but who cares for the initiative 1, like -1? It's kind of fine because you'll be sticking around that little bit longer. But yeah, I think I prefer aberrant on that. But that's cool. And again, lots of people have kind of previously looked at doing that kind of thing as well. And then what else have we got here? We've got a few more. Disgrace. Disgrace all are equal. In disgrace all are equal.
This is cool.
Someone playing with this actually. I think there's things you could do with this which are kind of funky. But basically, you're not allowed any HQ choices, and you don't have to take compulsory. You can't take compulsories because you're not required to take them and you can't take them, and you don't have a warlord. But all your character unit subtypes get +1 leadership, +1 wound, and +1 to one of the following, which you note down previously: weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, or initiative. Each model may have a different characteristic selected for it, which is crazy. Because yeah, you can really tailor what you're doing there, which is cool. But it's only characters, so it's not the units they're with, it's characters. And then -1 leadership to your characters. Basically, this is, you know, all our leaders. We're living in this conglomeration, this co-op, and everyone has an equal say, and we won't elevate others one above others. That's what got us into this situation.
That is cool. It's just the idea that you could end up with some real. Each model starts to build its own character, and you get this real sense of a war band coming out of that. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I saw someone playing with something. They had some really cool ideas about how to make the characters work, and it wasn't like over the top, but it might have been access to the armories. Can't remember, but yeah, this is funky. It might put you on the backward footing when someone else has a big character. You might be a little bit struggling there, but no, that's cool. That's a real different way of looking at it as well. To remove HQs, and rely on troops is kind of funky. I like it a lot. What else we got? Pride is our armor. Veteran squads in either a primary or allied with this oath for +50 points may gain Line and Heart of the Legion and Fury of the Legion. However, you may not include any troops choices, and all troop slots are removed from the force organization chart. Additionally, a detachment with this oath may include 2 additional elite choices, so 6 elite choices. It's pretty good. Now, obviously, you've not got many line options in elite, so you might be relying on your vets to do that side for you.
That is cool, actually.
It's not. I mean, 50 points is a lot. But
I was looking at it thinking, because it's obviously a sort of a variant almost, or it's similar to Pride of the Legion in some ways. But it's interesting that because you think, well, why does this exist? You could have done it with that. Actually, it is quite different because you just got one compulsory out of 6 choices, and obviously you're picking from the elites section, which is quite tasty.
Pride is also. It's only the 2 units that are selected as compulsory become line. So in this, it's any veterans that you upgrade become line. So you could spend 200 points and have 4 veterans units that are all upgraded. You don't have to. There are other ways of getting line, things like that. But it allows you to, not worry about those pesky troop options, and play with your elites, which is usually the busiest section, that and heavy support. So if you do want dreadnoughts and you want some terminators and you want some veterans, you can then get it all, and anything else as well. So yeah, I like that one. And this is it's designed to represent the original Crusade fleets that maybe were outside the area of conflict, or have decided not to go with whatever their legion's done. And they're like, we're cool and old and grizzly, and we can do what we want. Right, what we got left here? Taint of the Xenos. Basically, swap some weapons over. Any model detachment with a plasma gun or Nemesis bolter can swap them for a Xenos Deathlock, a combi bolter for a Xenos Deathlock, a plasma pistol for a Doomlock, and a Xenos Halo Blade instead of a power weapon. The Deathlocks and the Doomlocks are strength 4, AP 4 with deflag rate and lethal explosion.
Strength 6, AP4.
Strength 6, sorry, yeah, that's the big thing. Strength 6. Short 9-inch or 18-inch range, so much reduced range. The Xenos Halo Blade is +3 strength, only at AP3. melee two-handed. So a little bit limited on that one. But the points aren't a lot. They're either free or oh, what have I done here?
+5, yeah.
Yeah, no, the blooming thing's closed down. And then you've got the rule that goes with it.
This lethal exposure.
Yeah, go for
If
it.
the unit makes an attack with one or more weapons with a special rule, part of shooting attack in any phase, reaction, roll d6. If it's equal to or less than the number of weapons in the unit with the lethal exposure rule, the unit suffers a single wound with no save or damage mitigation allowed. This rule is allocated to a model with a stronger player.
So basically, yeah, if you fire lots of them, you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Are they good? Not really.
I don't think they're great. No, they don't.
But again, this is one of those options where it's not about taking what's good. This is one of those things where in the previous version, people would have made armies utilizing their rules, which weren't amazing, but they were better than this. This is, it's not stunning rules wise, but it is fun.
There's some quite cool. There's in the lore section of this book. There's a bit with Enritar's going in against some Solar Auxiliary, I think it is, and he's taking a station. And there's some of the story features some of his units having these strange alien weapons that are firing sort of dark matter and stuff, and it's alluding to this. And they come over as terrifying, even though it's causing them harm. And these sort of really powerful, scary, unknown weapons, albeit somewhat unstable. I kind of don't get that from these rules alone. But then maybe I'm thinking in too straightforward a way. I mean, against Solar, these are going to be fairly fairly terrifying, and they're going to rip through companions and stuff like that. But then things do.
You've got a unit with 5 deathlock shooting. You can be putting a lot of wounds on stuff, but you're only AP4. You have got deflag rate, but it kind of evens out, and the shorter range. It's cool, but again, it's not going to destroy your opponent. Like, you're not going to be overly scared. And we'll carry on. We'll come back to that thought in a second. So weapons of desperation. So this is another one where they can exchange stuff. So this is bolters and bolt pistols. What else is there in here?
This is very Rogue Trader, isn't it?
Yeah, this is it is absolutely. So anyone with bolters and bolt pistols can swap. 1 in 3 in a unit can take exchange a bolter for a heavy stubber. You can have shotguns, auto pistols, las pistols, loads of stuff. Yeah, this is down on your dragging out the barrel, whatever weapons you can find. And it's cool. I think again, this is super cool. Yeah, as you say, very Rogue Trader, because you're not getting much of a benefit from taking these.
No. You've
got
to have an idea in mind for this. I mean, I've seen some superb conversions using and not for this specifically, but people using the Palatine enforcers, the Necromunda police guy, with sort of unusual weapons, not the sort of bolt guns they normally have. They've all got the AK-looking assault rifles and like scrounged up shotguns and things. That looks awesome. And the idea of doing that with Marines, particularly if you have Marines with kind of cut down armor, you could have some cool looks to this.
So basically your advantage for taking these weapons is assault weapons are shot as if they were pistol weapons, heavy weapons are shot as if they were assault weapons, and rapid fire weapons count as pistol weapons. So you're firing all the time as you're moving, like essentially. But they're strength 3 and strength 4 at best with no AP, and I mean a lot of the time when you're firing, bolt guns the AP doesn't really matter anyway. But the shorter ranges and the lack of strength might do, but it's cool. It's cool. What's really interesting, because that is the last one, is you look at it in isolation, and it's like, oh, why would you? But A, it tells a story, which is, again, we're talking about narrative and heresy. But also, it's not just, you can take two of these. So how do I create my Blackshields force that I want? And also, is there stuff here that works across both? Like the Xenos weapons with their short ranges are less of an issue if you're taking one of the other O's that wants you to be up in the grill, like an Eternity of War. Like for those turns when you know you're not going to get in combat, maybe you do shoot your Xenos Deathlocks at stuff, things like that. So what would your Black Shield force, what would you do?
I mean, the Broken Helix is very tempting. The idea of doing, as you say, some aberrants. I would actually tend towards the clones. The aberrants one is quite a cool. It's cool, and it's because there's quite a few here that are very aggressive, charge towards the enemy. I'm almost trying to think of some that are a bit different to that. Like putting clones and psychos together is kind of could be kind of fun. That said, just the idea of really leaning into this bitter sense is quite appealing. So I think you could do a really cool warband with the in disgrace, all are equal, and give them something else that makes them. I mean, could even combine that with the pride as our armor. But this disgrace, all are equal, so you don't have any of the characters, but all your characters are slightly better. You don't need independent characters, rather. So disgrace, all are equal, and then give them something that makes them a little bit more punchy. I think that could be quite fun to make this idea of this real reaving warband. Like we hate everything, we want to watch the world burn kind of attitude is quite appealing, rather than some of the more, well, we've tinkered with ourselves and now we're disgraced. It's the other kind of direction I would consider going with this. What about you?
I don't think I'd ever want to model it because I would want to go full on with it, but aberrant, Broken Helix aberrant with an Eternity of War, like to represent proper broken, like we tried to adjust how Space Marines were made and it did not work. So they are
It really went wrong.
They are now just a living weapon that we unleash on the enemy and hope doesn't run back towards us. Would be a really cool thing to do. But I don't know. I like the idea of taking Panoply of Old, so I can base it on a Legion. Because that works quite well with the aberrants as well. I say if you wanted to do Wolfen. I'm just wondering what are really good options for characters, like, because Panoply of Old and In Disgrace all are equal. If you could find a fun, few items that characters could have to create a real, we are absolutely not hiding the fact we're hiding the fact that we used to be another Legion, but only because we want nothing. Like we're still used to their weaponry. We are warhounds rather than
we are
world
rejecting
eaters.
what we were.
We are lunar wolves rather than Sons of Horus kind of aspect would be really quite cool, I think. But yeah, there's some really cool stuff.
I like what Blackshields does.
I think we're going to see quite a few Blackshields forces, particularly amongst people who've already got one or two armies, because they can also be used as allies.
Yeah, a little force. This is going to suddenly become very tempting, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's a lot. There's a lot of options, and there's some good ones as well. If you want to play the rules, having a little allied force where they're not worth anything, but could also have something funky to go with them would be really cool. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Again, those two options actually make that whole thing a bit bigger, which is super cool.
Particularly if you were struggling to think of the second thing, the second oath, and then then you could start to do something with it with those two in particular, where it's actually gaining you a few extra points, and you're actually going to increase your likelihood of winning the game.
Yeah,
that way, making them more of a target. That's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, because we read. I mean, yeah, there's plenty to choose from.
Do you think
On
you'll pick
that.
up Medusa?
No, I like that's a long way down the
Mm-hmm.
path. I'm not even worried about any of that at the moment. We can certainly leave that. Should we talk about? Let's talk about. In fact, let's have a little break and then we'll come back.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk a little bit about the Legionnes Auxillia. We'll talk a little bit about. I'm not going to go into the Legionnes Auxillia units, but we'll talk a little bit about the characters.
Mm.
And we'll talk a little bit about the background as well as an overview kind of thing. I think because time is pressing, and we've already done this once, and yeah, hey ho, it is what it is. So the Legionnes Auxillia, Legionnes Auxillia, however you want to pronounce it. Essentially, these are allied detachment rules for when you take Auxilia with alongside a Legion. Nice and simple.
Mm.
It's just a nice little Legion-specific bonus to give.
I think this is a really good idea. I didn't
Yeah,
see this
I do.
coming at all before this.
No.
How they didn't, that's overly critical. I bet the team who put this together are just kicking themselves that they couldn't quite get it to come out when the battle group box, because this is the perfect thing if you've been collecting a Marine force
Yeah, big
that
time.
would sell you that bit battlefield box. But then that said, you just want to pick up a few things and
Yeah,
for flavour now.
I do wonder. I wonder where this idea came. Whether it was like, oh, we're doing some extra auxiliary stuff. Should we put some more rules, or whether it was the cynical part of me is wondering if someone's gone. Could do with selling some more auxilia to these space marine players. But hey, if you do it well, it doesn't really matter,
Yeah,
does it?
I sort of
So
wonder if there was some thought of well, we've got a few of these different
yeah,
units now that have been mentioned, like Spire Guard, like the Iron Warriors. I forget what they're called. The
yes,
Iron Warriors ones. There's a few of these that have been mentioned.
the
The Calf
Inuit
High Guard.
phalangists,
Well, I think they're new, but
the
anyway,
bleak archers. Yeah,
there's a few of them that have been mentioned. I wonder if they thought, hang on a
yeah.
minute, there's an opportunity here.
Yeah, I'm sure. I wouldn't be surprised if this was in the back of the mind of someone anyway.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, we've got it now. So essentially, you get one rule to apply to your auxilia that are allies. And again, there's 18 of them. We're not going to go into all of them, but let's take Iron Warriors. Some of them are better than others. Let's say that. Cool. That's always going to be the case. Iron Warriors. When a unit entirely composed of models with the Legionnes Auxillia, Iron Warriors special rule. So you apply the Space Marine Legion to in your brackets. So with the Solar Auxilia attached to the Iron Warriors. When you take a leadership test as part of a pinning or concussive special rule, you ignore any negative leadership modifiers. Cool. Not going to break the game, but means you're less likely to be pinned and therefore able to go about doing your job. Sorted. We should also note they're always fellow warriors with whatever you're doing as well,
Because the
unless you
idea
already
is
have Sworn Brothers.
that these are units that have either been sort of co-opted by the legions and they fought alongside each other forever for a long period of time, and they've picked up a few of the traits of the legion, or they are units that have been raised specifically by the legion to operate within the legion itself. So you get this kind of thing, and as you say, the rules are not enormous. They're not sort of game-changing things where they fundamentally change what the Solar Auxilia are, but they're just flavour, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a token thing. I mean, there is a downside in that if you're within 12 inches of a Legion's unit and they at least one model within 12 inches of a friendly unit containing one or more models that fails a morale check, the unit containing the Legion's Auxilia X is immediately pinned. So, cool. It's a minor effect. But on the plus side, you might be getting Blood Angels. Any model with the Legionnes Auxillia Blood Angel special rule, which is locked in combat, increases the attack characteristic by +1 as long as it is within 6 inches of a friendly model with the Legionnes Astartes Blood Angel special rule. Yeah. Are there many units that are going to really benefit from +1 attack? No, but it's better than not having +1 attack. So, yeah, I think they're cool. As you say, they really tie into having those named units, particularly like the Spire Guard, things like that.
Yeah, and there's been quite a bit of talk of a Exertus Imperialis unit. I should say. I'm being cautious with the phrase there because I'm not sure they were always Solar Auxilia, but that Iron Warriors group. What are they called? I really want to know their name now. But there's been references to them. What are they called?
Can't remember. You're on your own.
Annoyingly, they're not actually under the. They're not actually mentioned under the Iron Warriors listing there. All right, Spire Guard would have been a better example. I don't think they've ever been referred to as Solar Auxilia, but they fit perfectly well.
Yeah, someone did say, "Oh, where's the army go?" It's like, does it really matter? Like, it's a representation. So, it is what it is. But hey, it's all good fun. And then on top of that, also they've given you a new doctrine for Solar Auxilia to use reconnaissance pattern cohorts, and basically Solar Auxilia Hermes Light Squadron, Sentinel Squadrons as troop choices, and compulsory ones gain 9. So there's some nice little things.
There's another way as well of getting. They use another unit in here to be able to get Auxilia in your Legion's force, which is the Overseer, a new console type, which is this Overseer that allows you to take a Tercio as a retinue or a bodyguard for him. So you can have a bunch of guys led by a Marine, which is quite fun.
Who can have
a Marine with a whip?
If he's particularly if he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Which they've also got on top of that. We'll move on because I say we're doing lots of things at once. They've got the Opte rules, haven't they? So this is a cheap console kind of thing. He's 40 points. He's a character. He's not even a independent character, and he has independent character. Sorry, he's a unit trope. Yeah. Who has got 2 wounds, 2 attacks, and some options. But he's super cheap, and is he going to last long in a 3,000 point game? Probably not. Is he going to be really cool for a 1,000 point game? Potentially, like where you don't have to then spend loads of points on stuff. And
particularly, he's got that strength of the Legion rule, which means he automatically passes leadership tests made to regroup.
Yeah, him and his one unit.
That to his unit. Yeah, that's quite handy.
And can charge and shoot and stuff, which is it's good. Like it's a nice little thing. Again, he's cheap. It might be useful if you've got a few points left over and you're like, actually, I could do with another HQ. I could do with a unit not fully running away. That kind of thing. Cool. And then he can also have a Legion Company command squad as well because they're limited on what can take them. A Legion Centurion or an Opte can have them.
So this is a lower level. This is, as you say, this is sort of. But it says as much as it's company level rather than chapter level. It's that smaller scale thing.
Yeah, they've got chosen reward, and we've got a handful of options, a decent amount of options to be fair. But for him with an Opte, for that unit with an Opte, it's 120 points before you buy any stuff. It's not a lot, and you can have more vets in there if you want. You can have all the stuff you like. So. I like them. I like the choice. Again, as I say, you're not going to see it on many 3,000 point games, but you play 1,500 points. You don't always want the bigger characters who represent, a Master of Signals. Could the Master of Signals really be down in a 1,200 point game? Maybe not. Can that guy go and do the job for you? Sure. Right. do want to
Special
have
characters.
special characters. Horace Axemand. He's
I
cool.
love that they included him in this because I was kind of waiting for him. Really wanted to see him.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the model.
He is Little Horace. When he's reduced to 0 wounds for any reason, he's not removed as casualty. He remains in play and gains D3 wounds. Now, the only problem with this is it doesn't work when instant death or not actually inflicted wounds. So, because the Sons of Horus have a Warlord trait where they can do the same thing, basically, but I never used it because he was always doubled out. That's the problem with Thunderhammers. But
And there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing stopping. He hasn't got an internal warrior or anything like that, has he?
no, so which you probably shouldn't have, but it's a cool rule. And then he's got some. He gets +1 if you've Garviel Loken's rule, which again cool, good for campaigns, things like that, narrative stuff. Murder Strike 5 up on his +1 strength scored is pretty good.
AP2, yeah, pretty cool. Mastercrafted.
He's all right, isn't he?
What is the
points.
shield any good?
5 up invulnerable save.
It's like a sort of deflection shield thing.
Yeah, no, the strength 4 AP dash hit is like, yeah, cool. 1 or 2 games might do a wound, but I'm not worried about it at all.
No, okay.
Cannot claim the bonus for having more than 1 melee weapon or make attacks with 2-handed special roll. Yeah, that's fine. It is what it is. I don't rate the 4+ hit if you make a save. Yeah, say once in a blue moon it will do something. It will do the final.
It's a 5+ invulnerable, which
Yeah.
you would only take to get that deflection because he's got an iron halo. So you'd take the 4+ invulnerable over the 5+ and a chance to do a strength 4 wound.
No, you take the 4+.
Yeah, exactly. You'd never. I don't think you'd ever use it.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Yeah.
I can see why they've done it. They've done the 5+ and say, oh, there's not a chance to do a deflected hit. But I think that would be more interesting if it
doesn't have iron halo.
reflected the hit. But yeah, if he didn't have an iron halo, definitely. But it would be an interesting choice. Do you say, I'd take a 4+, or I'll take the 5+ and a chance to bounce one of your attacks back at you?
Yeah, one of your attacks. Yeah.
That would be fun, because most likely the guys going up against him are going to be pretty potent, or you're firing plasma at him,
or to do a different effect.
Yeah.
Like to, blind, like the old blind rules. Yeah, something like
deflect,
that.
Like a little, conversion.
Yeah, something like that could be quite good. But hey, Tybalt Mar. He's got
I like him a bit more.
Well.
I think he's quite cool. And the models, it's superb for him. Absolutely nailed it with him, I think.
Sure, absolutely. What can you do? Shock Assault. Each enemy unit within 12 must take a pinning test once per battle. Okay, that could be quite useful. Bit luck dependent, but it's not bad. An AP2 Murder Strike 6+ Blade. Yeah, it's cool. He's 160 points. Master of the Legion. Yeah.
Yeah, I like him.
Potential to be, yeah. Doesn't stand out as being amazing, but it's cool. Hibu Khan. He's a great model.
Yes.
I do like him. He's got plenty of rules.
Mark II in there, yeah.
So he can be part of the Shattered Fifth. So you can include in the Shattered Legions with the White Scar. He has a +2 strength AP3, 2-handed sudden strike 1, breaching 4+, murder strike 6+ weapon. It's not bad. Sudden strike and breaching 4+ and murder strike 6+. Yeah, it's all right. If he's your warlord, any unit, him and any unit gain Rampage 2. In addition, if he's not been removed, you get a reaction in the movement phase.
Oh yeah,
if he has been removed, cool. You get it in their assault phase, which is nice.
I like that. It's just you piss them off now rather than just being removed altogether.
And he comes with Feel No Pain 5+ as well.
And
there's some stuff around the Karosh rule where technically he can't join units.
I think he's part of a Shattered Legion.
Yeah, whatever. I think that'll get FAQ'd, and if not, I'll allow it at my events anyway, because the nature of the thing is he's not the same character. in the other one.
His
But I like
base
him. I think he's
stats,
really cool.
his base stats are not stellar, but you
2
do get
wounds.
a lot of rules. It's
Yeah,
the
2
2 wounds, 3
wounds.
attacks, rather than
Like,
3
most of the
wounds, 4
time,
attacks.
2 wounds doesn't matter. Again, stuff like this usually dies by a strength 8 weapon anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of the time it won't matter. Yeah, weapon skill 6. 3 attacks is 2-handed weapon, wasn't it? So you can't get the extra attacks. He's only got 3 attacks, 4 on the charge. Weapon
Could
skill
really
6.
do with more attacks, but then he has got Rampage 2, I suppose.
Yeah, he'll get the Rampage 2 in Shattered Legions. And he's got a pretty cool weapon for only having those 2 attacks. Yeah, 3 attacks. But with you're relying on getting the breaching and the murderous strike through. So, but I like him. I think he's cool, super cool, and there's some groovy artwork as well. Megison, baby, he's 175.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
he's
because
just pretty cool, isn't he?
Ibu Khan is only 10 points less than him. Okay. Yeah, got the lot. Battle Hardened 1. It's pretty awesome actually. And Stubborn. Battle Hardened 1 and Stubborn. Pretty big rules. He's got the Raise the Storm Warlord trait once per battle at the start of any turn where he's the active player. For the duration of the turn in which this rule is activated, all models in the same detachment with the Iron Hands or Shattered Legion special rule gain Furious Charge 1 and Hatred Traitors. Now, that's pretty good. Hatred
That's
is a big rule.
Because Tibalt Mar, I've forgotten, has that for Shattered Legions.
Yes.
Pretty relatively niche, but perfectly fitting within this set. Hatred Traitors. That's much bigger.
It's pretty awesome.
Mm.
He's got a servo arm as well as his Alban Power Glaive. What's he got here? So yeah, he's an Iron Hand if he's in that. He's got 24-inch range, strength 4, AP5. Yep, cool. Got a gun. +1 strength, AP3. Mastercrafted breaching 5 plus. His Power Gladius isn't amazing, but he does have that servo arm.
Not for someone with his stats, no. But then he's only weapon skill 5.
Yeah, he's 175 points. He's your warlord, and he's got 4 attacks. So he's not reliably going to be killing your 2+, even champions. It's not that reliable. It's okay. 3 up with a servo arm and a 2 up to wound, but
you're including him for the effect he has on the army, isn't he?
And he's cool.
It's not in himself, yeah.
He's super cool. Yeah, I like
Great
him
artwork.
a lot.
Yeah. Probably done by Rachel by the looks of it, but yeah, super.
Stubborn's awesome as well. Engitar. Oh, baby.
What a model that is.
So the Fang, oh yeah, I absolutely love it. I think it's my favourite one. Seeing the armour all torn and rent like that is kind of crazy. And this guy's a beast. So there's like background that this guy might actually be a
Thunder Warrior, yeah.
Thunder Warrior is the kind of tittle tattle kind of thing. Who knows? But he's certainly angry. He's certainly angry.
He is angry all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So up to 3 of your infantry units that are not bulky X gain the Scout special rule. That's cool.
Yeah.
And an assault phase reaction. So you're moving up the table, which for him, it's kind of what you want to do. Because I'd be looking at those the combat oaths that we were talking about as well.
Oh yeah.
He has, but the big thing about him is, so he's got weapon skill 6, toughness 5, base off. So 3 wounds, 4 attacks is lovely. Battle hardened 1
and
as
battle
well.
hardened 1, yeah.
So, yeah, so he's not dying easily, and he has his power gauntlets, which are strength times 2, AP2, melee, unwieldy, specialist weapon, brutal 2, which is good. Charged attacks. So you can halve the number of attacks you make, rounding up. So was it 4 base, 5 on the charge?
3 on the charge, yeah.
Yeah, it becomes 3 on the charge. But you get to triple your strength. So I don't know how often you would need to do that. but to go to strength 12 would be pretty cool.
Strength
That,
12, AP 2, brutal 2.
Yeah, your
At 3 attacks,
Mechanicum
hitting on, probably hitting on 3s.
3s or 4s, yeah, with hatred. Oh no, he's only got hatred bodies, isn't he? But yeah, your Mechanicum ain't gonna like him. That's for
No.
sure. He's instant
Contemptors are
killing.
getting a bit worried about him.
Well, yeah, winning on 3s is much better than 4s. But I know there's 7 anyway, aren't they? But Leviathans, he's instant killing some land speeders,
It just sounds bonkers, doesn't it? Which is
which he
kind of
might not
cool.
need to
The
do.
idea of that
But
fist just punching through the front of a land speeder and killing it dead is quite cool.
yeah, it's almost OTT. But if you're coming up against Sons of Horus in the first round of combat, that kind of thing, where they've got battle hardened, you're ignoring that for sure. So there is some cool stuff with him. Say whether you
Like him
need
a
to
lot,
go to
actually.
strength 12.
I think
Yeah,
165 points as well. It's quite reasonable.
yeah, he's got a lot. He's got a lot of bulk for like he's the same price as Hibu Khan. You know, Hibu Khan does some good stuff. Don't get me wrong, but you kind of think this guy is scary. How much does he do for the rest of your army? Well, 3 infiltrating. Sorry, yeah, 3 scouting.
Yeah.
Could be big units.
Power armored squads, yeah.
Is pretty cool. Depending on what they are. So
yeah, I think we might see a few of him around because I think he's a cool character. He does some cool things to the army, and you get to do a cool rogue warband thing, and you get to do something with the warhounds.
And within the background of the book as well, he's badass.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
We haven't talked about it because we lost the whole chat. But essentially, what's really good about this book, and I think this book's a winner. So Shattered Legions, you might not get on with the Shattered Legions. Cool. Even if you took the Shattered Legions out, the Blackshields are cool to the point where lots of people are talking about doing them. Like, not necessarily to say for how powerful they're going to be, but because they're cool. A few extra rules for the Auxillia. Cool. Nothing breaking.
But quite flavoursome. I mean, like taking Auxillia in a completely different direction. Not completely different, but, enhancing a direction.
Yeah. And some extra rules if you're just playing them as Auxilia as well.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 named characters who all seem pretty cool. Some, an extra cheap HQ, some other options around that as well. Really cool. And then on top of that, you've got this expansion of the Beta-Garmon system, which started off as cool, there's a Titan fight, and then became, okay, we're going to write a book about a Titan fight. And then became actually, well, the Beta-Garmon system was quite a lot bigger than just these Titans, to what you see now in this book, where it's like, whoa, this would be like the Beta-Garmon War would be up there with some of the biggest wars of the Crusade. Like, you're talking, the Rangdang and a few others maybe, but like this was a cluster engulfing war of massive scale, where 2 loyalist Primarchs joined in and tried to do their best to be a pain, and achieved mixed results within
the amount of forces that were ploughed into this.
Yeah.
Because of the sort of size of it and the importance of it. I think the lore of this book does a brilliant job of setting up, probably better than any of the others, because as you said, it's actually touched on it on a few places now. And I'm really pleased that they have, because it's been put forward as being pretty significant. But this, I mean, there was that little line in the book that said it's the gap in the mountains on the way through to Terra.
Yeah.
I thought it was a brilliant, just a one-liner, and it expands on it hugely about, well, why is this so significant, and why is it drawing in so much? And it does that really well. I was surprised reading this, because my preconception when we heard there was going to be these 2 books, one for Legiones Imperialis, The Great Slaughter, and one for Age of Darkness, which is this book, I assumed that
It'd be the other way around.
Exactly, that the Legions book would be a very
broad focus.
vast, sweeping cover of the macro scale, and the micro would be in this. It's actually the other way around. They're quite specific, albeit it's a global scale or city scale conflict that's described, and then obviously the Titan Death does some of that as well in the Legionnes Imperialis book. But this book is almost the sector-wide conflict, and then it touches on smaller, more personal conflicts. But I think that switch of scales is cool.
And it works really well to do what this book needs to do, which is bring in the Shattered Legions, bring in the Blackshields, and then to do the other stuff as well. And on top of that, so we've got dealing with the events of, like, it ties into the previous book around Nyakon City. By the way, that's the other bit of pronunciation advice. We confirmed it's Nyakon City. Naya, as in Danny Dyer, unfortunately, was the way it was described to me.
It was an interesting choice, but
it was effective and it hurt. So we tie into that, and Sanguinius focusing on that side of the thing where the biggest battles was, where Sanguinius, because the other thing this book does is shows you Sanguinius and the Khan and gives a lot of flavour to the Khan. Sanguinius walks into a room and everyone is automatically lifted. The Khan walks into the room and people are on edge, and he's getting a little bit annoyed with this, like watching Sanguinius do his thing, and he's like, well, they don't treat me like that, screw you, I'm going off over here, and goes off to do his thing, where he encounters the Blackshields and the Shattered Legions. When Endritar's like, yeah, screw you, I'm doing what I'm doing. He's like, oh, okay, right, well, I can use that at least. Where Meduson says to him, yeah, by the way, yeah, I'm not coming under your jurisdiction, but cool, you're here. And he's like, I really could make you, or I could kill you. I'm within my rights. But it turns out,
I'm not going to. Yeah.
I'm not going to. And it turns out, okay, cool, I respect you. In that respect, another reason why Meduson's amazing.
These are also, it's significant portions of two key legions. I mean, key, but they're really going for it here. These are big actions. And when you read a sucker for maps and lists of forces in particular, but the numbers of Sons of Horus that are here at this thing is significant. I mean, there's like 50,000 Sons of Horus under just one of the Sons of Horus commanders. You're like, okay, these are big forces that are being moved around. And some of the stuff the White Scars are doing in particular, these are big engagements that are taking place. You tend to see a lot of the stories that they're focusing on actually end up being sort of smaller strike forces. These are full Legion engagements, and that's before you start folding in all the mortal scale conflict as well. I think that the law section on this is really, really good.
I think it's. Don't think it's Black Book level quite, but I don't think it's far off.
I would say it's more
different. It's different.
It is. It's more of a story rather than a historic account. In some ways.
But like the depth, the detail.
Yeah,
it touches on that.
It does.
We get, and it ties a lot of things in. So the Khan tracks down Horus and thinks, cool, I'm going to take on Horus. Not realizing this is the first point that he's found out that Horus has ascended. And he's like, whoa, I need to get out of here. Of which Meduson saves him. And he does get out of here. And it's like, yeah, we can't fight that guy anymore. Like, okay, we're in trouble. But I'm still going to do my thing, so it ties in all that. I say we've already get this view of the legions and seeing what's going on there. It feeds into the Titans fighting. As you say, it shows us the scope of like the loyalists, really like Terran loyalists being able to find out exactly what's kind of happened, like what they are facing. Because Sanguinius thinks he's getting somewhere and then realizing he's not really getting anywhere. But he can achieve something because the kind of axis of this book and to their actions there is Dawn sent them with the task. He's like, don't die. I need you to slow them down. This needs to be the roadblock. This needs to be the slow grind. We need to buy time, and you're important in that. To the point where him and Dawn and the people on Terra have developed this kind of ticking clock of Jeff doesn't matter. Jeff's squad doesn't matter. Jeff's detachment doesn't matter. But the army he's in might buy us 30 seconds, and that 30 seconds we can use. So those
we aren't going to
2,000
rate your
warriors.
unit. We aren't going to rate your unit on combat effectiveness or its ability to win wars. We're going to rate it on how much time it buys us.
Yeah, not even your
Are you
unit,
a 30
your
second
army.
or are you a 1 day? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like it's not done in tens and hundreds. It's done in these 1,000 dudes are worth 30 seconds. These 1,000 Space Marines are worth an hour. You know, that kind of thing. And so all the way through, there's this, and the kind of it becomes known, like, you know,
it's
that
bleak,
is what
isn't
the
it?
fight is about. It's bleak and it's dark and it's so well done. And of course, I mean, maybe this is part of the English thing, but certainly military people around the world, but certainly British Army are known for making a joke out of the darkest things and times. And you hear stories about Gallipoli where like a bony hand was poking out of the trench and every English soldier would shake his hand as they walked past and say, "How do you do?" Like, because that's how you dealt with things. So as soon as you got this clock that's being bought by lives, they call it the death clock, and it's like, how much are you worth on the death clock, and how's it ticking? But for Sanguinius and for everyone else, it's like, actually, no, that is the important bit. For Dawn particularly, it's like, no, the death clock is it. Like, I don't care what you do, just as long as you buy X amount of time. And that's what you're here for. And that is what Beta-Garmon, there are two things Beta-Garmon is all about. There's this death clock. There's this hold them off. The Ultramarines are coming. Like, hopefully the Space Wolves are coming. Hopefully the Dark Angels are coming. Hopefully someone else is coming. And then there's also, we really need to stop all their firepower getting to Terra. A, because it will help them win. And B, because even if we win, if everything gets there, we won't have a Terra worth being fought for. So Beta-Garmon becomes this, and it's still the gateway, but ultimately it's about, I need to buy time and I need to reduce their forces. And that comes across really well in the book. While the White Scars are dealing, and Khan particularly is dealing with this whole, why don't they like me? Why don't they respect me? Why are they all scared of me? And Sanguinius is being the Sanguinius that you could see leading the Imperium if Horus hadn't rebelled. Sanguinius is being the emperor figure that he could be alongside it as well. And on top of that, Meduson and Enridhar, and they're raiding stuff to get supplies, and they're doing this and doing that, and then Tybalt Mars trying to set a trap and all that goes with it. I thought it was really good.
And in top of that, I mean, I was saying that, some of the I would always want more. It doesn't matter how many they gave us. I would always want more color plates. I think the color plates are a real strength of these. Ooh. That said, there is actually quite a few in here, and the ones that are in are quite cool. I think the little touches, though, on things like the ideas and suggestions of what some of the heraldry of things like certain known Blackshields are, warbands that have come from that, certain Shattered Legions forces and some variations on the markings and stuff. And then you go into the Solar Auxilia as well, which actually expands what a lot of the Solar, which has been thin on the ground since they were introduced, 10 years ago or something. It's been thin on the ground what there is of those. And we've got at least 6 Legionnes Auxillia that are detailed here that haven't been detailed before in terms of colours and heraldry and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot here.
And to mix it up as well, not to have all the Blackshields as being black, like, because again, people get caught up on that. So they've made there's 2 or 3 that are black or blackish, and the rest, there's some coloured ones, because you know what, they're called Blackshields because it's symbolic and everything else.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter what the colour they are. What matters is they've renounced their Legion ties. Like, that's all that matters. So
There's 2 out of the 5 that they show here have got black incorporated. The other 3 are bright colours. Well, kind of the greys and silvers and golds and blues and all sorts of different shades.
But I think in all that you mentioned there, and that's why to me it feels, it's not a black book, but it's more towards that way. They've done a good job. It's the first books they gave us that gave us rules. There's a lot to do with the rule book and the legions, the traitor and the loyalist legion books, that they felt a long distance from the old black books partly because they had to be, but these, if we get another scenario book like this next year at some point and it's like this, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this feels really quite important, and I think they've done a good job of doing that justice with the lore. And there's a lot of it. Half the book is lore.
Yeah, and they've packed quite a lot into the other half as well.
Yes, they have.
They've put the scenarios in that we all know and things like that as well, so you don't have to carry other books around if you want to. Hopefully you can restrict the amount of carrying of books that goes on. But as you say, if you don't like Shattered Legions, where you've still got Blackshields, Legionnes Auxillia, rules for legions and special characters, so cool. And if you don't like Blackshields, you've got the Shattered Legions and the blah, 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 blah. You can always argue about the value of a book based on what you want to use from the rules section. Even if I don't use the stuff that's this, which I probably won't for a while, I still think it was worth buying. Because I've had to, we've had to order ours. The ones that GW send us, we don't, because we're not. I assume because we're not a YouTube channel, we don't get sent the book to show off. We get these digital copies that are then like restricted access after a period of time. So the proof of the pudding is I went and ordered a book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want this sat on the shelf. I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. So, anything else before we shoot off?
I think that covers it all. I think, as I said, you could go on and on with this, but I think that covers it. It gives our impressions and covers the meat of the book for sure.
Yeah, I'd say people have the book in their hands anyway, but I think it was still worth recording this for a second time.
Yeah, without question. I want it. It's an important thing. It's an important release, and I would wanted to discuss it. And I'm sure with people picking it up, it's not a question of us reviewing it and making that decision. It's more of just how have we digested it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful stuff. Okay, shall we leave it there?
We'll call it there. Yeah, we'll pick up with this. We'll pick it up next time.
Thank you for making it to the end of another episode of the Imperial Truth. It's been a bit of fun one. Quite enjoyed it. We had to record it twice, as I said, which is frustrating, shall we say? But hey ho, it happens every now and then. Not sure what happened, but we lost the original. We don't lose too many in the 180 odd episodes that we've done, so I can't grumble too much. I'm rushing this last record and editing it the night before we head up to Orthan's Hope for some City Fight 3K gloriousness. Borrowed some Sons of Horus, so we will, I'm sure, talk about that on the next episode. If there's, I'm not too sure what else we're going to talk about. Maybe GW will throw something up that will spark some conversation. But if you have any ideas, if you have any feedback, anything like that, you can contact Greg at theimperialtruth.com, and maybe we can utilise some of that for what we do next time. And that's So any feedback about the show, any questions, I say we'll try and collect like questions ready for FAQs for listener questions, things like that, as we go through as well. So if you've got any of them, send them in. We're on Twitter as well, Imperial_Truth. There's a Facebook page, and all the links for these are all in the show notes. Anyway, if you can't remember them, you can go and find them there. Alongside those links, we have the Patreon link and the merch link, which I might need to redo. Actually, I need to check that that's still live because there was some stuff going on with that. So hopefully the merch link will be fixed soon. I've got the Patreon link. If you think this show is worth supporting, then you can on Patreon. We don't hide anything behind a paywall, so it merely is a tip jar. And we've, had some people who've been on it a very long time, some people who've come and gone, short periods of times, anything like that. And we're amazingly thankful for anyone who thinks this is worth any of their hard-earned cash. It's quite an honour to receive that. So thank you for anyone who's done that. If you want to support the show in a way that doesn't cost anything, completely understandable, then you can always share the podcast with a friend, or put up that you're listening to it, or that you enjoyed an episode or a segment or what have you. That would be cool. Have some things we're working on doing, but I'm waiting for some people to get back to us. But I've got some hopes for the rest of the summer. For the rest of the summer, we're not even in summer yet, but for the summer and the rest of the year, should I say. So we will keep plugging away at that. But I don't think there's much else to talk about here, so I won't, frankly. Let's keep it short and sweet. You have been listening to The Imperial Truth.